Hello. There we go, there we go. I refrained from talking for the first, like, minute now. To let everyone sift in and let me know, and you guys can let me know I'm live. Welcome everyone, hope you're good, hope you're good. G'day, afternoon. Haircut? No. I actually need a haircut, to be honest. You can't see it from this angle. I've got like a little mini mullet going on at the moment. Trying to get the curls at the back. I'm due one. But yes, welcome everyone. I'm doing very well. I'm very well rested. Sorry I was a couple of minutes late. I had a nap. I woke up with the little one earlier. It's the missus' last day off work today until she goes back tomorrow after a week off. So I took the morning shift as a good dad, and then I was shattered. So I had to go back to work. I had to go back to sleep once little one went down, and yeah, I then had to get some food in me. A bit of a rush, but we're all good. We're all good. We're ready for the next couple of hours, eh? You're intrigued on how the Astons will be performing today? Same here. Same here. The mullet suits me. Well, it's not quite a mullet. I'm exaggerating there. It's not a mullet.
God forbid.
God forbid, the missus says, yeah. But I'm very good. But yes, welcome everyone. If you are just tuning in, if you are new to this channel and this is your first time here, what are we doing going live so early? Unbelievable. The race doesn't start for another 55 minutes. Scott, what are you doing? Well, what we do here is that we go live early because we love to chat about F1, what we can expect. And then what we do is we watch the drivers go around the track, do their sighting laps. Then we review the strategy options for today with the weather, the pit stop loss time, and just review all of the important information for your viewing needs today to enjoy, hopefully, what's going to be a very good race at the Hungaroring. So, yes. It's midnight in Christchurch, Woody. Oh, my goodness. Well done for tuning in, man. Much appreciated. Committing to it. How's Mini Stuffey's open seater training going? She's now found the forward gear. She's now found first gear and can actually move forward. Previously, it was just reverse, pushing herself backwards. Now she can actually move forwards. So yeah, she's getting there. She's getting there. Sounds like we've got a band. Oh, you can hear that, can you? Yeah, she was shaking one of her toy maracas. But good afternoon, everyone. Is Yuki starting from the pit lane? Is he? Doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. To be perfectly honest with you, what did he qualify? 18th. So they've clearly made some changes to that car. That car's been in disarray here this weekend. Of course, with Max Verstappen only in 8th himself. So yeah, let me just have a look at the order for today, as I am waiting for it to load up right now. And yes, confirmation. Yuki Tsunoda is starting from the pit lane. So, so no movement up and down the grid from what I'm just seeing here. So there's no post-race, post-qualifying penalties to be added. So, intriguing. Perhaps you can teach Max to drive. No, you have to behave. How's she figured out DRS? Not yet. Not yet. Hey, all, good to see you, mate. Her lap timings, she's yet to complete a lap of the flat. That's the thing. I mean, bear with her, guys. She's just found first gear. You hope something happens in front of Bortoletto today so that you can capitalise on an early... capitalise on a super finish. Yeah, I mean, look, it's a possibility. I mean, Hamilton I expect to really make some ground today. I really do. We always know that he does better in the race than he does in qualifying, evidently, with his teammate on pole position. But I think the Aston Martins is an intriguing one. What is their genuine race pace like? How are they good on how good are they on their tyres? Max Verstappen is going to be one that's interesting to watch today. He could provide us with a bit of radio gold because of that car not being in a good window. So, yeah, I know. Not long till F1. Everyone can hear you. You can't watch a full race, VJ. That's okay, buddy. That's okay. What's the weather broadcast? Well, little spoiler for the weather broadcast, which we will review. It is looking dry. It is looking dry out there at Hungary. So, which I wanted, to be honest with you. I wanted there to be a dry race. Didn't want there to be a wet race. Supposedly, though, a bit of an intriguing thing, guys. So there was rain earlier on today at Hungaroring, and because one of the side of the grid was wetter than the other, they had rolling starts in both F2 and F3 in dry conditions. I don't know about you, but I don't like that. I don't like that. That's never been a thing in F1 in junior formulas. It's like tough crap, really. If you end up with the benefit of being able to qualify on the qualifier, like luck of the draw, and you're on the drier side than the other side, I think yeah, that's it. But tough crap, really, you know. So I don't. That's never been a thing until last weekend at Spa. That's the whole reason why the race was delayed by 4 laps. It's because they were waiting for the grid to dry fairly. So rolling starts should never be the future. No, rolling starts are a last resort. Alan, Lewis must have been really frustrated with himself with his useless me comments yesterday. Yeah, look, this is Lewis in these regulations set, isn't it? I read the interview out to you yesterday when I listened to it live. He has got it in his head that he cannot qualify in these. He cannot qualify in this regulation set, and I mean, I get it. Because he clearly can't, really. He struggled in these cars. He's much better getting the best out of these cars over a race distance than he is over a single lap. Whereas others have been able to do that. So, yeah, I totally get it. And it would have hurt him even more yesterday seeing that Leclerc, his other side of the garage, is on pole position. So that makes it even worse for a driver. So, cool watches. Bit off topic, but how would I give some advice on how to grow on YouTube? Even your channel has nothing to do with F1, but I think it could translate. So what I personally would do is avoid live streams at first, because there's no point live streaming to 1 or 2 people, if you're lucky. Short form content is a good way. So really, what I would do on YouTube personally is create video content with short form content in mind, so you can link the two together. So basically, you create a video, you create short form content from it, and then you've got on YouTube able to link the long form video. That does get quite a lot of traction, and then people are seeing an actual relevance to your long form content coming over from short form content. So yeah, that's what I've seen personally from my kind of growth. Obviously, a lot of my growth comes from live streams, but yeah, that's kind of my best advice to you: is you have to utilize, whether you like them or not now these days, short form content. So, and post it on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, but then ensure that there's kind of like a video to have that linked to. And as was it Kai Sinet's? I love this quote. Slow motion's better than no motion. So growth is as long as you've got continued growth, that's the main thing. Everyone obviously wants 100,000 million subscribers instantly, but it doesn't happen that way. Very, very few people get that, and the most people that have got to that point, it's taken them years to get there. So, did I see Hamilton drive the truck during the driver's parade? Did he drive the truck? Did he? I mean, that's probably what he feels like he's driving this weekend. I feel like Hamilton is struggling after being at the top for so long, but he's handling being decent, even though he has already done goof in a new car. Yes, I totally agree. I've said this before, that there's a different mindset. So when George and Lewis were together and people were saying, obviously, George Russell's doing much better than Lewis and things, there's a completely different mindset that Lewis Hamilton had compared to George Russell. George Russell was excited to be in Mercedes, excited that he's now got a car, or he's in a team that 8 times constructors title. They've got 7-time world champion who's won 6 of them. 6 of his titles with the team. Like he's in a team where he can fight for podiums and arguably race wins. It obviously didn't plan out that way. Whereas Lewis is just off the back of a very low moment, of course, with 2021, that season and how it ended. And he wants to fight for a championship and he's not able to. So George has come from the bottom up and Lewis has come down. So 2 completely different mindsets. And that's Lewis's mindset throughout this whole regulation set, is that he has not been very positive about this regulation set at all, because of how it's kind of started. And as I said, moving from Mercedes to Ferrari, we mentioned it yesterday and touched on it, but we all expected Ferrari to be in a much better position this season and actually be taking the fight to McLaren. And they're in some races been worse than Mercedes, where people have even questioned Lewis moving to Ferrari and should he have stayed at Mercedes, which is absolutely ridiculous considering how they performed the last 3 seasons. So, yeah, it's just been a horrid 4 years for Lewis Hamilton in this regulation set, and he's clearly just not ever seen eye to eye with it. Now, age does play a factor as well, as we've touched on before. He is getting older. That might have made it worse for him as well, the lack of adaptability that happens as you get older. It's just simple biology. But we have seen him many times that when he does, on the rare occasion, have a car underneath him that he feels confident in, he still gets a performance out of it, and he seems like the Hamilton of old. So he'll be massively looking forward to 2026 and just wanting to get the rest of this season over with as quick as possible. So, but they're still racers, and they still want to perform well at every single session, every single time that they hop into that car. So Hamilton needs the summer break. There's a lot in short space time. He needs more than a summer break. He needs this rest of this year to be over and done with. He needs a 2026 race, McLaren, personally. So, could he do the regulations be why he has been doing bad, or is the car bad? And I think it's the overall regulations, to be honest with you. I just don't think he's got on with these cars. And yeah, I don't think for Lewis, I don't think he knows what a good car is in this regulation set. He has continued to tinker. I mean, you look at Mercedes. They don't know what a good car is in this regulation set. They don't even know their own car. They're still befuddled as to why their car only performs in certain conditions. They put on a brand new suspension and it made their car worse recently. So they've gone back to the old spec this time around. Hence why they were quite poor in Spa. So when you've been at a team like that where they don't know whether they're coming or going in this set of regulations, and then you go finally to a team where you think, yeah, they actually ended the season really well. There's maybe a chance that I actually have a good car in the last season of these regs, and then it's just more of the same. And you've obviously already got the hurdle and difficulties of change of environment, language barrier, new engine, etc. All these other things that you have to deal with when you move team anyway. Yeah, it's just not great. It's just not great. And that's not making excuses. I just think they're valid reasons. And I think that'd be the case for any driver as well. So, will Ferrari's strategy cost Leclerc win today? Possibly. I just don't think really in any scenario today that there is a scenario where Charles Leclerc wins today, and that's if the 2 McLarens tangle and fight and focus on themselves. But I just think the Ferrari is not going to have the race pace on the McLarens. The McLarens are very, very, very good. They can bide their time and beat him in the pits. Charles will be difficult to pass in the first stint if he holds on to first place by the end of the first lap, because he has a lot more top speed than the McLarens. Similar to kind of what we saw in Spa, they won't be able to overtake him. They'll have the pace in the corners, but it's tricky to overtake here, and they're not going to want to risk anything, are they? And why would Piastri try and poke a nose to get ahead of Charles Leclerc unnecessarily if he can comfortably keep Norris behind? So, yeah, it's going to be an intriguing one. It's going to be an intriguing start for sure. And then it's just a matter of time, really, for them beating him in the pits and just taking that tyre longer, maybe looking after it better than Charles Leclerc can, really. So 2 stops today. We'll wait for. We'll see. Yeah, but it's this track. You'll be unsurprised to hear that there are 2 stop There are 2 stop strategies that have been suggested by Pirelli, and there is also a 1 stop strategy suggested, which is the norm here at the Hungaroring, where of course it is a track where the tyres do take punishment, and yeah, we do normally see those try and eke out the 1 stop. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it has worked. But generally, the preferential strategy here, the preferred strategy, is the 2 stop. But it does make things exciting because I do think the guys at the top, they are going to try and do something a bit different. We know that George Russell particularly likes to roll the dice, but it's whether or not he can stay with the top 3. So, yeah, there's potential for an interesting race here today. Appreciate it, D-Man, by the way. I always try and base my opinions and stuff around logic. And Lewis Hamilton is someone as well that I've not hid behind, that I am a fan of. He's the only driver on the track that I actively look out for to see how he's doing. And he's a fan. I'm a fan of his because I've followed him since he started his F1 career, where I was a lot younger, in my teens. So, yeah, he is someone that I always want to do well, but I will also criticise him. Like, yesterday wasn't good enough, by the way. I also don't... By the way, yesterday was all Hamilton's fault. Yesterday was all Hamilton's fault. It was driver errors. It was the way that he drove that car. He should have got that car into Q3 at minimum. So that's also why he's more harsh on himself in the interviews, because he knows that it's his mistakes that have cost him getting into Q3. So, right, we have drivers making their way to the end of the pit lane. So we're about to have sighting laps, so I'm going to change scene. Right. They should be on their sighting laps. So just saw Liam Lawson make his way to the end of the pit lane. So we'll watch these guys make their way round. Hopefully there's nothing untoward that happens. We have seen drivers have moments here on the sighting laps as well. Remember when Max Verstappen went straight on and damaged his front wing down at turn 1, I think it was. We have seen some spins here before as well. So, yeah, we have seen more... It's been a bit more chaotic at the Hungaroring than I think at other circuits before, when drivers have just been making their way around to their grid slots. So, yeah. To be fair towards Hamilton, Hamilton shouldn't compare himself to Leclerc, since Leclerc is very fast on that one. It's difficult not to, though. I think you should compare yourself to Leclerc because he is your benchmark. He is your teammate. He is your barometer at the end of the day. So I think he should. And Lewis would also have a high bar for himself that he can come in and compete with Charles Leclerc. He probably has a realistic expectation of himself that it's not going to be at every race, but that he could be like on a level playing field with him. But yeah, it is what it is. But I expect a strong race from him today. Of course, it's a track that he likes. The Ferrari is in much better shape than the Mercedes, than the Red Bull, than the Aston Martins. I mean, really, here today, I do think Lewis Hamilton should be able to get up into the top 4 positions. I really do. I think that should be his aim today. I think he has the car underneath him to comfortably get into that top 5, potentially into the top 4, because that Ferrari is comfortably quicker than the rest of the field. So that's obviously what makes it even worse for Lewis, is that there was quite a good opportunity for him to fight his teammates this weekend for a podium position, but that's not really on the cards now. But I do think that my prediction for Lewis is that he will finish top 5. When you look at the cars ahead of him and you look how they're not going to be that great on their tyres, and the Ferrari has looked like it's had very good race pace in comparison to the McLaren and the rest of the field. So rain will make this race even more interesting. Well, we will see if there is going to be rain, if there's any in the air. Of course, we've had rain in the morning. There is a percentage chance of rain, but it's not as high as maybe what you would think. But yes, we will keep an eye on that for sure. Let me see if I can move this out a bit more. I can there, and then we can move that. Move the track map over slightly. There we go. because we're going to need all those columns today. We're going to need all those columns because it is potentially going to be a two-stop strategy here. Maybe someone will try and go even more. We'll see. Remember when many years ago, three drivers, Villeneuve, Mansell and Schumacher got the exact same lap times? I don't, to be honest with you, because I was probably not out of nappies when that happened. What year was that? When Mansell was still racing, I definitely was probably still in nappies. And this is multi-viewer. Why are people underestimating Lando? Because people like to think that Lando is makes too many mistakes. Well, he does make too many mistakes, but people like to think that he's not going to win this championship and that their stock is in Oscar Piastri. I get why that is. But yes, I think there's going to be a very interesting turn one here. I think there's going to be a very interesting first couple of corners. So we will see. Will we see contact? Will we see something happen? I mean, we have seen 3 wide into turn one before. We've seen many a collision in the first couple of corners here on lap 1 at the Hungaroring before as well. And yeah, I mean, will one of the McLarens have contact? Do not rule out George Russell as well. Oscar Piastri, I mean, how good of a start is Charles Leclerc going to get? The great thing about turn 1 is that it's a very wide corner. So it's got space for 4 cars, really, to go side by side in this modern F1 era to go into. Not necessarily to go round, but to go into. And there's so many different lines that can be taken there. And similarly kind of down into turn 2 as well, because you're then like on the outside, then you're on the inside for the next corner, and then you're on the outside for the next corner. There's so many different like scenarios that can occur, and so many different lines that can be taken where you then think the car that's ahead actually has the advantage, but actually no, they don't, because they're not on the racing line for the next corner. And yeah, it's going to be a very interesting start. Bottas is crashing to turn 1. That's true. I have a feeling Russell and Max will do massive dive bombs. I mean, Max is too far back. Max is going to be smart to an extent. But Russell's going to be looking at an opportunity to get in it. What's the most people I've had watching in one stream? 20,000. Fingers crossed for the Ferrari boys today. Yeah, no Ferrari shirt, guys. I was this close, guys. I was this close to basically peeing you all off and starting this stream with the Ferrari top on. I was this close. I was like, shall I? Should I do it? And I didn't. Norris or Russell will do a dive 100%. We'll see. The thing is with the McLarens is that, I mean, Norris is going to have all eyes on Piastri, right? He's going to have all eyes on Piastri. He's going to want to get ahead of him. Because whoever gets ahead, as we know, in the McLarens, generally goes on to win the race or finish ahead of the second McLaren driver. And they also get the preferential treatment when it comes to pit stop strategy. So if Charles Leclerc is able to hold on to the lead for this first stint, then whoever that driver is first is going to be able to do the undercut on him, pretty much. So they're going to get that power first and that option first, especially like Charles may then end up responding to that undercut and coming in the next lap. Then whoever's the McLaren behind him is then also going to be following Charles Leclerc into the pit lane, whereas that driver who's done the undercut, pitted first, who's in necessarily second, they're going to have that advantage of then taking the lead. And then you've already got Charles Leclerc behind, who's difficult to overtake, but then you may get past him anyway eventually. But by the time you got past him, you're not going to have a chance to win the race. So there's so many different scenarios that can happen. But yeah, I think Charles, we know Charles is a good starter. And I think Charles will hold on to the lead, to be honest with you. Piastri's going to be a bit coy. He's not going to do anything. He's going to try and cover off. I think this is my scenario. It's my prediction. I think Charles is going to get a good start. He's going to head down into turn 1, cover off the inside. Piastri is going to move to the outside. And he's going to think more so about covering off Lando Norris, and it might be a bit of a boring start. I hope it's not a boring start, but that'll be probably what they're planning on doing, and that's what Oscar's full process will be. But he'll be thinking, obviously, if I can get a good launch, he's starting on the inside, get alongside Leclerc, he's got that inside line straight into turn 1. As Fernando Alonso is on the grid, I thought we'd stop there. Fernando Alonso is the first driver to grid up, by the looks of it. Driver's still nothing untoward at the moment, which is good. What are sighting laps for? So it's just an idea. It's just for them to go out there, see how the track conditions are, to make sure all systems check. Basically, everything's a-okay in the car, and then they make their way round to their grid slots, because they can't just... They can wheel the cars out the pit lane, but ideally not. So, yeah, and then they drive round through the last corner onto a start-finish straight and then get their cars onto their correct grid slot. So, right, bear with me, guys. My app is not working.
This is the truth.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Alright. Find a pub that shows it. Oh no, it won't be on TV. It's 3 o'clock. Why is Alonso on the grid so early? Sure, he has no problem. He doesn't have a problem, no. Gasly's now on the grid. Maybe he's just like, yeah, car's okay. Don't need to worry about it. So, black shirt, Ferrari. Ferrari has a chance. Maybe if I don't wear a shirt, Lewis will get into Q3. No, that's paid for content. That you don't get that for free. Yuki's taken a penalty. Yes, well, I mean, Yuki only qualified what, 17th. So that Red Bull, clearly some issues in that Red Bull for this this weekend. So, yeah, no, understandable for him to start in the pit lane. Aditya, you just want to know, this past few races, Kimi's performance has been going downhill. Is it because of Mercedes or driver reason? So I did a video on this, Aditya, and it's not been Kimi's fault, primarily. Spa, so really, Spa has been his worst performance of the year. And I think people have massively overreacted to Kimi going out in Q1 twice and having the weekend that he did. But if you dig into the detail, it's not really that difficult to dig into the detail. If you just look back at where he's had his DNFs and he's had kind of some poor performances, it's Mercedes related. He had engine issues. He had a poor strategy call at Silverstone, which I don't know why they decided to pit him onto slicks on the second lap. Basically, they gambled with both of their drivers rather than leaving Kimi out on inters, which we know he's good in the driving in the wet as well, Kimi. Then he eventually retired because he got obviously hit from behind from Hadjar in poor visibility conditions. So, no, Kimi has done very, very well this season, and it's just a massive overreaction to what was, yes, a very poor weekend for him, his poorest of the season. But no, like, it's not... People are just looking at the headlines of the results and looking at DNFs, but those DNFs have not been because of him. So, apart from... Well, I mean, Monaco wasn't great, of course, but he has had some poor performances, but yeah, like... He could be doing so much better there. I mean, it wasn't too long ago. Canada wasn't too long ago when he got third. So, you feel like Raikkonen should have gained more titles, bro, as a menace in Ferrari McLaren? Yeah, I think so. I don't know why he didn't, to be honest with you. Maybe that's a video of looking back through Kimi Raikkonen's career. Because, yeah, he was very highly rated when he came into the sport. Oh, hang on. Sorry, guys. Right, they're all lined up on the grid. I'm just trying to get my TV coverage to work. My app stopped working. I'm having to log back in. Once we've got that going, and we will have a look at, of course, the strategy options for today. I mean, we're coming up into the 3-week break, so maybe it's yeah, a bit of a project for me to have a look back at his career. So I must admit, I can't remember too much of Kimi's early career when he was at McLaren. I can't remember too much of it. He obviously had a very long career. Right. Let's have a look at some strategy options, shall we? They're all lined up. Here we go. Here we go. Right, I'm just getting everything set up. Just bringing it over for you guys. So. Damn 3-week break. I know. What am I going to do for 3 weeks? The missus is rubbing her hands together. I can see her right now. She's like, oh, I've got 3 weeks of free F1 weekends. Hallelujah. Right. Here we go. Strategy options. 2-stop, 1-stop, 2-stop, 2-stop. That is what's been suggested by Pirelli. And, well, I've been saying it all weekend, and I said it in my preview video for this weekend's race. And, well, yes, this circuit always provides when it comes to strategy, because we see a 2-stop and a 1-stop utilised here. And sometimes, depending on track conditions and track temperatures, I don't think we can see those today because it's a bit cooler. We have seen track conditions get well into the 50s, and we have even seen 3 stops. But what we see here, as I mentioned, we see drivers try the 1-stop, hold on to track position, because we know how important track position is in this current era of regulations. But this is a track where it is possible to overtake. We know that the DRS is effective here as well. It's efficient, and it's possible to overtake. So, with the tyres actually degrading here, unlike at some other circuits, this track surface, there's a lot of energy put through the tyres. Drivers do normally go for a 2-stop, and those who hold on to the 1-stop are chased down by those who go for the more aggressive and safer 2-stop strategy, which we'll probably see be the medium hard compound. Maybe someone will start on the softs, maybe, but we've seen that strategy not really utilised that often, and that's because the soft tyre, you don't gain that much in the first couple of laps on the soft compound tyre, and you kind of leave yourself to a bit of a detriment when you go onto the medium. I think we saw that last year. Anyone who started on the soft tyre and pitted early didn't actually benefit that much from it. I say early, too early. But the undercut is powerful here as well. So if we see drivers pit early, we know that clean air is king, especially in the middle sector and last sector. If you get held up by a slower car, that is very difficult to overtake, and you're just going to lose a considerable amount of time. So clean air is king here, and that's why the undercut will be powerful. So be keeping an eye out on that. Use those 3 weeks to brush up on my prediction skills. What will be a good poll? What will be the winning pit strategy? That'd be a good poll. What will be the winning pit strategy? Maybe. I'm going to end the poll, actually, because I always forget to end the poll. Over 1,200 votes already, and, well, you guys think that Piastri is going to win this race. It's close with Leclerc. A lot of you have faith in Charles Leclerc. Interesting, interesting. So, mediums and hards, yeah, that's generally what we saw last year, the medium to hard compound tyre. We did see some try the hard, the 1-stop, but look, pitting into clean air is important here. That's the thing, especially for those in the midfield. So, you can gain a lot of positions if you pit at the right time. But, of course, if your tyre, it's no point pitting too early and then your tyres fall off a cliff, where we do see this happen at this circuit. So, yeah. Do I think Charles Leclerc can get top 3? Sorry, Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton? No. No, unless there's something that happens with the McLarens, no. Why no medium-hard strategy? There is a medium-hard strategy. Number 2, the 1-stop. So that's primarily what's going to be. We may see some drivers go for the hard. They may start on the hard compound tyre, you know, go hang for a safety car, which we have seen here in times gone by at the Hungaroring. So, yeah, I suspect... I'm surprised, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm surprised that Pirelli still keeps suggesting that starting on the soft compound tyre is a viable strategy. It hasn't worked, so we haven't seen it utilised for quite some time. We see drivers go longer in the first stint, then shorter. Maybe it's because the undercut is powerful here, but I think... because of safety cars and so forth, and we'll have a look at the pit lane loss time here, that's more so what teams would bank on now these days, rather than doing an early undercut. But we'll see, could be wrong. So here we go, here are the tyre allocations for drivers. It's nice to have the Pirelli graphic back. We missed it at Spa. And, well, we can see here, is there an advantage? So, potentially, Piastri and Norris have only one brand new set of hards available to them. They have a used set of hards. I think they used them in practice. I don't know how long they used them for, to be honest with you. But maybe that's a little bit of an advantage for the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, who has 2 brand new sets of hards available to him. But we know, really, that McLaren they are so good on their tyres. They're the best on their tyres up and down the grid, and having a used set of hards isn't probably going to be that big of a deal for them. So, soft. Sorry, what is some goal hang for a safety car? Great phrasing. Yeah. What is? Sorry, I just saw there someone said about Chong. You've said soft, hard, soft is fine also, unless used in quali. Well, that's the thing. Not many people have two brand new sets of softs available to them. So I'm not sure the softs would last. Would the softs last that long in the last stint? Maybe, because obviously you're on lower fuel. But yes, you can see here that it's only Hamilton, because he failed to make it out of Q2. He's the only driver in the top 4 teams, in those top 8 drivers, as well as Antonelli, sorry, who and Tsunoda, I guess, because Tsunoda's starting from the back of the grid, who have soft tyres available. So Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen, if they all made it into Q3, those drivers, Stroll, Alonso, they do not have brand new softs available to them. So interesting, but really, Stroll and Alonso, they like to scrub a set of tyres, so they're technically used, but they have a set of basically brand new hards and brand new mediums available, but no 2 sets of hards here. So they're going to be going and using the softs. Maybe they're going to commit to the one-stop, the Aston Martins. That'll be intriguing. Or maybe we will see them put the softs on at some point as well. And then further down the grid, Hadjar and Lawson, yet we can see only 1 set of hards here. Hulkenberg and Bortoletto, they've got 2 sets of mediums available. So Bortoletto, that's interesting for Bortoletto. He's got 2 brand new sets of mediums available. So we could maybe see a quick stake F1 car in Bortoletto's hand in the last stint if he goes on to a set of medium compound tyres. So we'll see how that plays out for them if he does the 2-stop strategy. As we move on, the race pace, as what has been predicted from F1 from the data that they've gathered through the practice sessions, and unsurprisingly, McLaren's quickest. Ferrari are second quickest, around 3 tenths, just under 3 tenths slower, with Mercedes and Red Bull being quite close, which I don't know if that's accurate, to be fair. I saw Mercedes and Red Bull be quite considerably slower than that of the Ferrari. I feel like the Ferrari race pace there is actually a bit off. It should be a bit smaller, at least smaller than the Mercedes and the Red Bull in comparison. So Aston Martin's here. They've got a new front wing on their car. Why are they performing so well? From what I understand from a quote I saw from Fernando Alonso, is that they have a brand new front wing, which is very effective here this weekend, where obviously you need the downforce. And so yeah, Aston Martin have made a launch up the grid at this circuit. Kick Sauber, we know, kind of made so much progression, haven't they, of recent. They're right in the middle. And then Racing Bulls are interesting, but the Racing Bulls seem to be quite slow there with their race pace. So currently starting 9th and 10th, we'll see if they're able to hold on to those point scoring positions, with Ollie Behrman starting behind the RBs. Williams, we know obviously Albon had a very poor qualifying, and Alpine are just slow in general here for some reason. They've never really had a good race here, I think. So other than 2021, where Esteban Ocon won. And then pit stop lost time, guys. This is the interesting one, of course, with the potential of 2-stop strategies here, and the undercut being big. Green flag conditions, a 20.5 second pit stop lost time. So that's what were the gaps we're going to be keeping an eye out on. That's the gaps you should be keeping an eye out on when I am commentating and you're looking at the intervals, because that is what teams, that's the gap that they're going to be looking at. And then, well, safety car and VSC here, 25% chance, or 25% we have seen the safety car here in the last 7 years. And, well, under yellow flag conditions, safety car conditions, it's a 9-second advantage nearly, or 8-second advantage to the pit stop under VSC. So that's a significant advantage. 20% chance of rain, and the weather report that I looked at here, the BBC weather for Budapest, is actually quite clear now. So it was raining this morning, and as the forecast has kind of said since Friday, the weather was moving earlier and earlier rather than later. So it does look like it's going to be a drier race. That's pretty much it, guys. That's pretty much it in relation to strategy for today. Not long, yes. 20 minutes till lights go out. Let me move that up here. There you go. Just under 20 minutes. Rosberg had a contract but retired at the end of the year. He became champion. Yes, he did indeed. So, hey, Rob, good to see you, mate. Welcome, everyone, for coming in. Rob Sticks as well. Good to see you. Yes, good to see all some regular faces. How is Red Bull that fast? Verstappen seems to be struggling. Yeah, I don't always necessarily take these race pace lap things into consideration. I don't know how they totally calculate this, because do they take into account the laps where they've also been held up behind cars and laps interrupted? I don't know. Do they properly dig into the detail? I mean, I presume they do, but that's quite surprising to me that Ferrari is that close to Mercedes and Red Bull, and that Red Bull is that close to Mercedes, because I personally didn't see that. Of course, when you look at the final standings on a practice session, it's always their fastest lap, so you want to dig into the detail, but I don't see Red Bull, with their tyre management and the issues they've had this weekend, I don't see them being that close to Mercedes and Ferrari. So what is the highest position Lewis can achieve today? I think he can get fourth. I really do. I don't agree that Mercedes is that quick, and I think even starting from 12th today, I think he could do like a really good undercut, and I think he could do something. Top fourth, maybe pushing it. I reckon top 5. I think that Ferrari is going to be quick here in race trim, and it's going to be one of those performances again today. I think what's going to happen, I think it's going to be one of those performances again today where we look at Lewis and we go, if only he could sort out his qualifying. If only he could sort out his qualifying, he could be fighting comfortably for the podium. And I think that's what we're going to see. I think we're going to see like another 6-7 positions gained by Lewis. If he gets top 5, then that's 7 positions gained. So, yeah. How do they know how much fuel the teams carry? It is a lot of guesswork, Ryan, yes. So you can only go from laps. You can only go from the laps. And also as well, this doesn't always take into consideration like the tyres they're on. So it is a lot of assumptions. This isn't a science. Sometimes they do long runs on softs, mediums, hard. So yeah, they kind of have to make rough adjustments to it. And I do think Ferrari is probably around that slower than McLaren. In clean air, that is, of course, the big issue here is clean air. And I do think Mercedes and Red Bull, I think this should be moved out further, to be honest with you, away from Ferrari. That's just my personal opinion from what I've witnessed here this weekend. So, AccuWeather says some rain to hear. Mogiorad. Is that where it's positioned, is it? Okay, maybe I've got the wrong place then. Any drama? Any baby Stuffeyy appearances? Tea, coffee debates? No, not today, Els. Not today. How would I rate Aston's chances of getting a podium? Low. Very low, to be honest with you. They need something to happen up ahead of them in relation to like crashes, issues with McLaren, issues with George Russell. How often do we see George Russell do nothing? And then he's on part, and then he's in like the top 3. So, but anyway, let's get set up with the data again. As yes, if you're just tuning in, guys, I can see obviously the graph with people joining. It's shooting up. These are your strategy options for today. We are on the cusp, really, of a 2-stop/1-stop. Those are always the really interesting races where we see kind of that convergence. I love it when we get races where hopefully we see that convergence out on track. If it's a clean race, that is, and we see those on the more aggressive 2-stop strategy. Chase down those who have tried to hold on to track position. And I do think my prediction today is still that the 2 McLarens will split their strategy. I do think the 2 McLarens today, one will go for the 1-stop, one will go for the 2-stop. And I'm intrigued to see which driver that is, whether it's the trailing car, the lead car, and how that plays out today. That's been my prediction all week. And I really hope we see it today, because that'll be really intriguing for us, rather than them just being... Unless they're literally on each other's rear wing, but that would be really interesting. And I think one of them will. I think one of them will take that option as well. And I did say I think it'd be the trailing car that takes the 1-stop, but yeah, I now think that the lead car will take the 1-stop and hold on to track position and hope and they'll have confidence that they can make that 1-stop work. So, but with my experience this season, who has been the best at tyre management? Overall, it has been McLaren. And overall, it has been Norris with tyre management. However, Piastri has dramatically improved with his tyre management. But we've had very few races this season where tyre management has actually really been that much of a factor. So it's difficult to kind of say. But in those little moments where we have seen tyre management be quite influential, I say quite influential, be more important, I guess. McLaren have topped it comfortably. And I think Norris still has that edge over Piastri, but it's a slight edge in tyre management. My pleasure, Naren. Thank you for the kind words. But thank you for the kind words, guys. Right, let me get set up. We've had a look at those strategy options. They've played the national anthem. And we are ready to rock and roll. So let me get my stuff up here. I have to put it all back in order for you guys. Right. So, yes, confirmation that rain is... you'll have a look at this in a second, but confirmation that rain is due. Not due, but it is 20% chance for rain today. Maybe we'll see it, but the race is going to start dry. At least that means that we'll get not a rolling start, hopefully. We will see. Right, let's see. There we go. We're good to rock and roll, I think. Good to rock and roll. Happy days. Not long to go. Not long to go. So, at the moment, championship standings, guys. Let's have a look at the championship standings, shall we? So, today, and I'll keep you informed of obviously what this looks like. Oscar Piastri heads into this race weekend with 16 points advantage. Whereas Lando Norris, of course, lost ground on his teammates, finishing behind him in the sprint race, third place, losing a point there, and he lost a further 7 points in the main race, coming second. So Norris, yes, 250 points to Piastri's 266. So if that was... He needs, really, Oscar Piastri. So what's the points difference there? So for him to lead into this race, after this race weekend, into the summer break, he needs his teammate to finish 7th, I think, is correct there. It could be finishing 7th. I don't know why Alex Albon's on the move. Why is Alex Albon on his way down there? Interesting. I think it's 7th is where is where he will have to finish. So yeah, outside the top 5 quite comfortably, really, for Piastri today. And Norris to win if he is going to lead heading into the summer break. Verstappen further back with 185 points. George Russell in 4th, 157. Charles Leclerc 139. Hamilton in 6th. Antonelli 7th. Albon is 8th. Hulkenberg is 9th. And of course, McLaren in the constructors' side, well, it's a bit closer behind them. McLaren have more than double the amount of points than Ferrari. That's why they're allowing their 2 drivers to fight, because they've got such an advantage and they have that luxury of the constructors' lead there, and they're comfortably going to win this season. Ferrari, yes, second, 248 compared to Mercedes, 220. And then Red Bull, with some poor performances recently from the Red Bull side, they have lost ground on the top 3 there in Ferrari and Mercedes. So there we go. Any chance of rain? Well, it did say here that there was a chance of rain. 20% chance is what we've been told. Second driver from Red Bull has gathered 7 whole points. Yeah, not a lot. Not a lot, to say the least. Who gifted you a pit crew pass, Graham? I can't remember who that was yesterday. But yeah, obviously good to see that you notice. If you could give you thanks, I must appreciate you guys. Do I think they should ease up part firmware rules if the track becomes wet for the race? Maybe enforce a certain amount of downforce if it's safer to actually race. If they are going to... So this is the discussion that's come out of last weekend, is that if they are going to hold off race starts until they become much more drier and the rain basically stops, which means we're going to end up having dry conditions very quickly, then yes, they should, I think, open part firmware and allow the teams to make changes to their car. Because those who have gambled on wet setups to be racing in a wet race have lost... I mean, it's just, I don't know, it just seems unfair to me that race control have that power to basically say, no, you've all done wrong. Like, what is the point? What skill is there, really, in having a look at the weather and making a decision in adding more downforce to your car for the wet conditions when race control is just going to hold off the race start until it becomes pretty much a dry race anyway. That's unfair, really, in my personal opinion. So if they're going to take that approach, then yes, they should be able to change rear wings or whatever and go to a more dry dependent setup. On the flip side, I don't think they should break part Ferme rules if the race becomes wet. You know, I like the way that it currently is, but race control needs to get racing underway sooner, don't they? So the radar shows it will rain in 30 minutes. Slight rain though. Ooh, it could make things interesting. It could make it very slippery out there, of course. Do I think we should bring back refueling during the race? No. Said this before. I think refueling would cause more issues than it would solve. It wouldn't actually make races more interesting. It'd probably make them more confusing because we wouldn't know how much fuel they've got in the car. It would, yeah, it's obviously it provides a bit more in relation to strategy, but I think there's more focus to. I think more focus should be put onto the tyres and the tyre construction and the tyre selections that we bring here, bring to races, then refueling. So it's more drama. I don't know. The big thing is safety as well. They're not going to allow refueling back in this current era, obviously, where they've tried to make the sport considerably safer, and it is considerably safer now. They're not going to add a massive risk factor back to the sport in that sense. So I may have to reset the map. I don't think so, but we'll have a look. No, Albon's just up there. This happens sometimes when they're parking up, so everything's all good. I'll reload the data and everything's okay. So, yep, all good. Albon jump start, yeah. Refueling with the speed of pit stops these days is too dangerous, especially after, I believe, Jos Verstappen was set on fire. Yeah, and also, if you remember as well, Massa in the pit lane at Singapore, it's just... Yeah, it's not something that I think would ever be reintroduced. So, do I think when racing at Spa they should use the endurance pit exit rather than exit of turn 1? No. No, because the problem with the pit exit, the endurance pit exit, is that you're then increasing the pit stop lost time by more than double. Because they have to... The pit lane entry is obviously the Grand Prix pits, and then the endurance pit lane... You have to make your way all the way around, and then so you're ensuring that there's less likely to be a 2-stop race, and it's always going to be a 1-stop race. So the pit lane lost time is always influential into whether or not we see 1-stop or 2-stop races, and that's why there has been discussions about increasing the pit lane speed at certain circuits to ensure that the pit lane lost time is actually smaller, so that it encourages teams to make more 2-stops. Pit stop lost time today is 20 seconds, pretty much 20 seconds. Under VSC, it is 11 seconds, 11 and a half seconds. It's risky, but it's more fun. I remember when Schumacher did a 4-stop pit stop. Would it be a safety car today? Potentially. Yeah, we have seen them in the past. We have seen them. It has happened where drivers have driven off with fuel hose and still in the car. Yeah, I just don't think they're going to add it back. Jason, do I think Hammy will leave Ferrari... Sorry. Will I think if Hammy leave Ferrari, will you think he'll come back at Mercedes? No, Ferrari's is his last move in F1. He'll end his career at Ferrari. He's 40 years old. He'll be 41 next year. There's no way that he's moving anywhere else. And no one can afford him either. So, yeah, he'll end his career there. He would have raced for McLaren, Mercedes and Ferrari, arguably the 3 most historic teams in F1 history. As we have blankets off the tyres, just as I was about to go for a loo break before this race gets underway. Oh, I said someone may go hang for a safety car and try an alternate strategy. And, well, we have Lewis Hamilton. We can see there that the top 11 are all starting on the medium compound tyres. And Lewis Hamilton is starting on the hards. Bold strategy, Cotton. Bold strategy. We'll see if it plays out for him. Little dodgeball reference there. Carlos Sainz is starting on the soft compound tyre. Okay, I was wrong. We are seeing some guys start on the softs, but only 2 drivers starting on the hard compound tyre. So I'm a bit surprised by that with Lewis Hamilton. Or I'm not surprised by Lewis with doing that, but I'm surprised more aren't starting on the hard compound tyre, to be honest with you. But we'll see if it plays off for them. But there we go. That is it, guys. I'm going to have a quick loop break. Suggest you guys do the same as we have. 3.5 minutes remaining until the formation lap here at the Hungaroring gets underway. Let's make sure we are prepared. We are back. We are back. Ooh. When did I fall in love with this sport, Rob? Oh, God. I first got into the sport when I was like 6 or 7 with my granddad. And then after that, I truly loved the sport, I think, when I was around 12, 13. That's when I truly started to get invested in it. When I kind of like understood it a lot more, you know. But right, here we go, guys. Here we go. 1.5 minutes. Just over 1.5 minutes until the race gets underway here at the Hungaroring. Going to be a very, very interesting one. Charles Leclerc on the mediums. So the top 4 are on brand new mediums. Alonso and Stroll are on technically used tyres, but we know that the Aston Martins always love to scrub off a set of tyres. So what I mean by scrubbing off is that they like to take the shine off of a brand new tyre. They go out there, they toodle around for one single lap and come back into the pit lane to ensure that the idea behind that is that they can get temperature into the tyres quicker than if they were just completely brand new. Whether it works for them or not, I have no idea. Never really seen it from Alonso and Stroll, because they haven't really been that high up the grid. This is their highest starting position of the season. Gabriel Bortoleto is on brand new mediums. Everyone on brand new mediums today. Everyone on brand new tyres. Sainz is on softs, as we said there. Hulkenberg and Albon as well, so they'll be committing to a 2-stop for sure. Esteban Ocon on the mediums there. Sonoda starting from the pit lane today. And, well, yeah, Hamilton and Gasly on the hard compound tyres. So they're going to be looking to extend that first stint, go long. Pirelli didn't actually even provide us with a strategy option for starting on the hard compound tyre. And, well, we know that the undercut is powerful here. How will the overcut work? Let's see. Let's see if it's if it pays off for them. But we'll keep an eye on Lewis's progression today, because that Ferrari arguably is the second fastest car here this weekend. I think it's the second fastest car quite comfortably. And Lewis Hamilton in 12th is well out of position in that car, considering it is starting on pole position in Charles Leclerc's hands today. But we have 10 seconds remaining until the formation lap gets underway. Here we are, guys. Not long to go. Thank you everyone for tuning in. As always, if we can hit 1,000 likes before the race gets underway, that would be absolutely tremendous. Big thank you as always for tuning in. We should have green light for the formation lap any second now, as the counter has gone down. And there we go. Charles Leclerc is making his way down the grid there. And we are moments away, guys. Moments away from the Hungaroring, the Hungarian GP race, should I say, at the Hungaroring getting underway here. So let's have a run through your grid today, as it is a very short lap here. And they'll be making their way around to the grid slots very, very quickly. Charles Leclerc is on pole position. A shock pole position yesterday with those very, very anomalous weather conditions yesterday, where the wind direction and speed completely changed, and the Q3 times were considerably slower than that of what we saw in Q2. It threw off the McLarens, and it allowed Charles Leclerc, in what he described was a very scrappy lap in itself with lots of mistakes, qualified on pole. So he is starting pole position ahead of Oscar Piastri in P2, our championship leader here. 16-point advantage ahead of Lando Norris, who is in P3. George Russell is in P4, and it's going to be a very, very quick dash. A long dash, shall we say, but a quick one nonetheless down into turn 1. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll in 5th and 6th on the 3rd row. Yes, you heard that correctly. Aston Martin with a brand new front wing that seems to have been doing wonders for them here at the Hungaroring, and they find themselves with their highest starting position this season. Gabriel Bortoleto, continuing what's been a great qualifying performance from him this season, is in 7th, line up alongside his sim racing friend and teammate Max Verstappen in P8, who has been struggling in that Red Bull this weekend. Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar round off the top 10 with another good Q3 performance from both the RB drivers. Ollie Behrman, he's finished 4 times in 11th, for a ridiculous amount of times in 11th place, and he finds himself in 11th place today. Will he finish there again today? Surely not. Surely there's better on the cards for Ollie Behrman. Lewis Hamilton, lots of discussion about him. A very poor qualifying from him, but he is in a quick race car. As we know, Charles Leclerc there in P1, and their race pace looks pretty good, so he's looking to progress here today, starting on the hard compound tyre. Carlos Sainz is on the softs on a struggling Williams in P13. Colapinto, a good performance from him in a struggling Alpine in 14th. Kimi Antonelli looking for some confidence. He had a lap time deleted yesterday and went out in Q2, starts 15th. Gasly is in 16th, starting on the hards. Ocon is 17th. Hulkenberg 18th on the softs. And Albon is 19th on the softs. And Tsunoda is on the mediums, starting from the pit lane after breaking Parc Fermé rules and changing some alterations to his setup in that struggling Red Bull. We are moments away here, guys, as drivers have made their way to their grid slots. They are lined up on the grid. Charles Leclerc at the front there. How long will his tyres be cooled in here? How long will he be sitting there for as we are waiting for Alex Albon to bring up the rear here? Yuki Tsunoda makes his way down to the end of the pit lane, and he will be waiting for everyone to make their way past before he can start his race today. But Alex Albon at the rear there. Let's see how we fare. We have seen incident here in the past down into turn 1. What is on the cards here today? We are moments away. Alex Albon at the back. It's lights out, away we go. Charles Leclerc leads down into the first corner. It's a very long run downhill into turn 1. We have seen plenty of incident here before with big lockups as Oscar Piastri has had a bit of a slow start as Lando Norris looks like he has got ahead of potentially. As no, Lando Norris has lost. I can't tell who has come out ahead there as Lando Norris lost positions, or is it Oscar Piastri who's ahead? Charles Leclerc leads down into turn 1 as Lando Norris has actually lost 2 positions. It seems to Fernando Alonso and George Russell. Max Verstappen is down as well, but Lando Norris is down in 5th place. A terrible start from him there. Not entirely sure what occurred, but it's Charles Leclerc from Oscar Piastri. George Russell in 3rd, Alonso 4th. Bortoleto is up in 6th place as I'm watching the replay. And well, Lando Norris got such a good start, but he chose the wrong line. He was on the inside for Lando Norris. He got covered off by his teammate. He chose the wrong decision. Poor racecraft there, and he's been swallowed up by Fernando Alonso and George Russell as Esteban Ocon makes a position as Lewis Hamilton starting on the hards loses places as well to Carlos Sainz and Kimi Antonelli. But yes, Lando Norris, he just chose the wrong line there. I need to see a replay of the start, but Lando Norris actually did get a good start. He got alongside Oscar Piastri, but found himself on the tighter, more acute line down into turn 1. But Charles Leclerc leads here as we're approaching the last corner of the first lap. Charles Leclerc first, Piastri is second, with George Russell in 3rd. But we know that Charles Leclerc is in a very quick Ferrari in a straight line. This is going to be difficult for Oscar Piastri to get past the Ferrari now, but his championship rival and teammate is down 2 positions in P5. A terrible start for Lando Norris. I'm not entirely... Yeah, exactly. I'll need to see the replay again to see his movements from an overhead shot, but he did get a good start, but chose the wrong line. Was he forced into that position? I don't know. But Alonso finds himself up in P4 at the moment with Leclerc in 1st. 6 tenths behind is Oscar Piastri with George Russell in 3rd, and there's already a little gap forming between Russell and Fernando Alonso there, which Norris will be trying to get past that Aston Martin as quick as possible. Bortoleto finds himself in 6th ahead of Lance Stroll, with Lawson in 8th as Verstappen has lost a position. He lined up alongside the grid of Gabriel Bortoleto, and he now finds himself 2 positions further back. Ollie Behrman is in P10. He's now up into P10 as Verstappen does get back past Liam Lawson there into turn 6, into the chicane. So Verstappen regains that position from the RB driver of Liam Lawson. That's not his fight today. Lawson probably knows and will like to follow him as Fernando Alonso is being overtaken there. They're side by side with Lando Norris. I think Alonso had a bit of a slow exit there through turn 11. As you can see, he is already out of the DRS. DRS of George Russell ahead, as is Oscar Piastri as well. Charles Leclerc here breaking the toe. Oh, well, not quite the toe, but he's breaking the DRS of Oscar Piastri already here, as he finds himself 1 second ahead of that McLaren. As we know, the McLaren very strong in the corners. It's very good on its tyres, but it's not very quick in a straight line. As Lando Norris, with the DRS open, dispatches Fernando Alonso down into turn 1. And, well, Fernando Alonso is actually coming under attack by Gabriel Bortoleto, the driver, who is part of his management system. And, well, Gabriel Bortoleto, he'll be hoping not to make contact with him this time around like he did in Saudi Arabia. But Bortoleto definitely on the fight here to get past the Aston Martin of Alonso, as Leclerc sets the fastest first sector of anyone, 2 tenths quicker than that of Oscar Piastri. Charles is getting an absolute move on here, ladies and gentlemen, in the early stages of this race. But how much is he potentially hurting his tyres? We will see. Of course, we know that the McLaren can pretty much bide its time here, look after its tyres, which it has been so supreme on for the majority of this season, as Verstappen now dispatches Lance Stroll into that chicane, and Verstappen now finds himself in P7. So Verstappen, to get in a move on here, he'll have his eyes set on Gabriel Bortoleto, who also in turn has his eyes set on the rear wing of Fernando Alonso. And, well, Alonso is going to be, you think, a bit of a sitting duck here, with no slipstream pretty much from Lando Norris ahead, who is 1.6 seconds. He'll get a slight toe from the McLaren, but not the one that he needs, as Bortoleto is all under the rear wing of Alonso here. We'll see how their exit is out of the last corner with the DRS activated, as Lewis Hamilton set the fastest first sector last time around on a set of hard compound tyres. He's on an alternate strategy to the majority of the field today. Only Gasly, who is down in 19th, is on the other set of hard compound tyres, as Leclerc leads from Oscar Piastri. 1.7 seconds is the gap now, as Bortoleto down into turn 1. They're side by side as Alonso comes back at Gabriel Bortoleto, and Bortoleto went for the move, but he couldn't hold on to the position. And, well, he needs to be careful and looking in his rearview mirrors, because Max Verstappen is eyeing him up there. He's all under the rear wing, and Max Verstappen in the early stages of this race has found some comfort in that Red Bull car, and he is looking to try and overtake his sim racing teammate Gabriel Bortoleto, and then try and get into that top 5 and maybe get onto the back of the top 4, who are currently driving away from the rest of the field at the moment. But Charles Leclerc has a 2.2 second lead over Oscar Piastri at this moment in time. Is this a decision by Piastri to just hold off and just look after his tyres? It's a very long race here today, and just ensure that he is in a better position with his tyre management come the end of the race? Or is he just thinking bigger picture here, ladies and gentlemen, as there is an incident between Gabriel Bortoleto, has been noted for a false start, moving before the signal, and Gabriel Bortoleto, if that is the case, it's normally an investigation. It normally is a slam dunk 5-second penalty. So Gabriel Bortoleto, unfortunately, is being investigated for moving before the signal for a false start. We'll see what comes of that, but he is currently trying to chase down Fernando Alonso at the moment. We'll see how he fares. With the DRS open down into turn 1, Alonso holds onto it for now. But Charles Leclerc leads from Oscar Piastri 2.27 seconds at the moment, 2.25 seconds at the moment. And, well, the top 3 are lapping quite consistently around the 22s, but Piastri half a second behind Leclerc last time around. But, yes, as we mentioned, is it now tyre-saving mode for both of them? Lando Norris will be looking to try and get past George Russell as quick as he can, as Max sets the fastest first sector out of anyone and finds himself in that pack of Alonso and Bortoleto at the moment. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. But as we have a run through this grid, shall we? But Leclerc leads as we are about to complete lap 5. Charles Leclerc leads 2.6 seconds from Oscar Piastri in second, with George Russell ahead of Lando Norris there in P3. Norris, who lost 2 positions at the start after actually getting a good start and alongside his teammate, but had to back out of it because he was too far on the inside. Got swept around the outside by Russell and Alonso. He is trying to chase down George Russell at the moment, as I am watching a replay at this moment in time to see exactly what happened here at this race start. And, well, basically what happened is that Charles Leclerc went all the way to the outside to cover off Oscar Piastri. Piastri did the same to get tucked in right behind Charles Leclerc. Lando really had to move because he got such a better start than his teammate. To keep his foot on the throttle, he had to move to the inside line. They then moved all the way back across the track to the inside line, Charles and Piastri, and that left Lando basically just shut out. So really, it's Lando really kind of got too good of a start, to be honest with you, to try and get past his teammates, because Leclerc and Yeah, he got a slightly better start, and he just found himself in a very awkward position because they'd moved so wildly across the track. So, could he have done better? We'll see as we have our first pit stop of the race. Nico Hulkenberg there. Nico Hulkenberg has pitted very early off the soft compound tyres, and as we mentioned, the undercut is powerful here, guys. So being on a medium set now with a clear track ahead of him means that he can gain quite a considerable amount of positions. We'll see if anyone decides to respond to this, but Piastri is losing a lot of time here to Charles Leclerc. He's 3 seconds back. And I'll tell you what, his lap times, I mean, Charles Leclerc is 3 tenths quicker than that of Piastri, Russell and Norris at this moment in time, who did 22 sixes, a few hundredths of a second separating those 3 drivers. So very, very interesting. As Bortoleto goes for a move into turn 13 on Fernando Alonso, and Alonso holds on to the position. Bortoleto, who is as there's also a false start investigated for Nico Hulkenberg as well. So 2 drivers, the 2 stake F1 cars. Oh, conspiracy alert here, guys. Both stake F1 cars investigated for full start positioning, moving before the signal. What occurred there? What occurred there? It doesn't seem like from the TV coverage that I'm witnessing that they really moved before the signal. If they did, it is fractions of a second, but it's a bit of a coincidence but mate, is it a coincidence or is there more to it? As Hadjar reports, mate, my hand is effed. I took all the gravel. Oh, Isaac Hadjar has got a bit of a hurting right hand right now as he has had gravel flicked into his car and he's hurting right at this moment in time. But Lando Norris, fastest lap for him last time around. He's trying to get a move on now on George Russell. A 22.5 last time for George Russell and his teammate as well. But Norris did a 22.1. Charles Leclerc is pulling out. Oh, actually, I'd say he's pulling out a gap. It's a 22.3 last time compared to Piastri's 22.598. But that gap staying consistent around the 2.8 to 3 second mark. Has Charles pushed too early, or is Oscar Piastri just trying to hold off the guys behind by looking after his tyres, playing the long game here, and of course looking at the bigger picture with his teammate further behind? As it currently stands, he would be gaining a further 6-point advantage over his teammate and increasing his championship lead to 22 points, as there is no further investigation for Gabriel Bortoleto moving before the signal. Wow, it must have been very, very close. Same as, but there is a confirmation there of Hulkenberg being under investigation. So maybe they picked the wrong stake F1 car. That's why Bortoleto has been given a reprieve for that investigation there. But at the moment, yes, Leclerc leads from Oscar Piastri by 2.8 seconds, 3 seconds. But Piastri did just chuck in the fastest lap of the race until Nico Hulkenberg just took it away from him, who is on a fresh set of boots at the moment. Fastest first sector there for Max Verstappen. But Piastri is in second with George Russell third, being chased down by Norris, who is just outside of that DRS zone. And he's now just got inside the DRS zone of George Russell. So Lando Norris looking to make a move on the Mercedes driver. Fernando Alonso is in P5, and it's all aboard the Alonso train at the moment, because all the way back to 19th position from Fernando Alonso, 14 cars find themselves, if my maths is correct there, within the DRS of one another. As Yuki Tsunoda actually just fell outside of the DRS of Franco Colapinto. Now he's back in it. So yes, Fernando Alonso holding up the rest of the field at the moment, other than Nico Hulkenberg, who has made the one and only pit stop here today, and Charles Leclerc, Piastri, Russell and Norris out up front. So yes, Fernando Alonso, he's still holding off. For Gabriel Bortoleto finds himself in P5 where he started. Did get past Lando Norris very shortly at the start of the race, as Norris now starting to try and gain on George Russell. He's within 9 tenths now of George Russell. You can see the DRS open there, but how much will he be able to gain? Now, the strength of the McLaren is in the corners, not necessarily down the start-finish straight, but with George Russell outside of the DRS of Oscar Piastri up ahead, he will not be able to get that advantage, a further advantage, to keep him ahead of Lando Norris down the start-finish straight. Max Verstappen still finds himself in that DRS train behind Gabriel Bortoleto and Fernando Alonso ahead. Alonso holding on very well at the moment. As Piastri, as the engineer says, for Oscar, some competitors are talking about a one-stop. Do you think a one-stop is possible? And he says, I mean, the tyres feel okay. I mean, it's difficult to know with this many laps to go. So that is what has been relayed to Oscar Piastri, as there is a 5-second time penalty for Nico Hulkenberg, a false start. And I do wonder, yes, I do wonder whether they did actually pick the wrong stake F1 car to investigate. And it was actually Nico Hulkenberg, who has just been given a 5-second time penalty there. And, well, a 5-second time penalty, which he could have potentially have taken already at his pit stop because he's trying to do an undercut here as he finds himself dead last with the only driver to have made a pit stop at this moment in time. But, yes, update further down the field. As we mentioned, Fernando Alonso is holding off the rest of the field at the moment, and he's just gained a bit of ground there on Gabriel Bortoleto out of the last corner as Norris is closer now to George Russell. He was half a second as he went into the braking zone of turn 1. He is trying to eat away at this time as George Russell is losing a bit of ground to Oscar Piastri, who is further up ahead, is 2.9 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. So yes, Piastri's few drivers on the radio discussing a one-stop today, which we know this track, it is always on a cusp of a two-stop or a one-stop. Of course, in this set of regulations, we know that if you track position is key, clean air is king. So if you can find it, it is essential. But we do see tyres have a bit of trouble round here, as Piastri alluded to. It's too early to say. With 61 laps remaining, 60 laps remaining when they cross the start-finish line, it's too early to say whether or not a one-stop is viable at this moment in time. But a fastest middle sector there for Oscar Piastri closes the gap by a couple of attempts. That is where the McLaren has been strong all weekend, but where it loses a bit of time is down the start-finish straight. But let's see how Lando Norris fares. He's the closest driver out of anyone to the car ahead of him at the moment. He loses a bit of time through the traction zone of turn 13. Will he be able to stay close through the exit of turn 14? And he does. He is closer than he has been, but he lost a bit of time on exit there. It went from half a second to outside 6/10. Does he have enough? DRS opened down into turn 1, and he doesn't quite have enough there. It's all about the braking. Of course, it's very difficult to keep it in line there. Lockups left, right and centre down into turn 1, especially when you're under pressure. We've seen that before. And George Russell is just holding off Lando Norris right now. And this is exactly what the McLarens, the position they did not want to find themselves in, is that they have a very quick car in clean air. But when it comes to dirty air, they do not have the top speed advantage as their competitors. And it makes it very difficult for them to get past. So, yes, that is what Lando Norris is finding right now. And Oscar Piastri just managing his race at this moment in time. Currently gaining 6 points on his teammate and potentially heading into the summer break, the next 3-week break before we then head to Zandvoort. With a 22-point advantage over his teammate. As Leclerc says, what's going on with these cuts? What is he reporting there? Has he got cuts to his tyres? Has he got blistering to his tyres, Charles Leclerc? I'm waiting to see the TV coverage, as there is a report from his engineer, Lando Norris, saying we need to get past Russell. So Lando Norris on the attack now to try and get past George Russell. As we know, he has been around the 6/10, half a second mark to George Russell for a few laps now, but he's not close enough here. Out of the last corner. He needs to be under half a second to have an opportunity to get past that Mercedes, which is much quicker in a straight line. As you can see, the advantage there with DRS is not sufficient enough for him to get past, even with another DRS zone down into turn 2 at the moment, as the gap to Oscar Piastri is 2.5 seconds from George Russell to the other McLaren, the championship leader. The gap to Piastri and Leclerc for P1 at the moment. Piastri just in that window of 2.7 seconds to manage his tyres. The lap time's now starting to level out between Leclerc and Oscar Piastri. Fernando Alonso a bit further back in P5. There's a 16-second gap now. 16.5-second gap from from Fernando Alonso to Charles Leclerc. Remember, the pit stop lost time, guys, is 20.5 seconds on average here at the Hungaroring. And, well, Charles Leclerc nearly finds himself in a free pit stop window. Which no doubt by the time they do make their first eventual pit stop, he will find himself in. As yes, Bortoleto, Max Verstappen just starting to fall off the pace a little bit there. Is he also doing something similar and just thinking about the bigger picture here with the pit stops? Their drivers now starting to fall off the cars ahead after a sustained amount of pressure, and just look after their tyres. A Lewis Hamilton update for Lewis Hamilton fans, myself included. A P14 at the moment for Lewis Hamilton. He started on the hard compound tyre. Only one other driver, Pierre Gasly, has done so, and they have both lost positions at the start of the race. Lewis Hamilton down 2 positions from 12th to 14th, but looking to extend his first stint compared to others, as Lando Norris finds himself unable to get past George Russell at this moment in time. 7 tenths back. That gap is widening a little bit there, or it did widen a little bit out of the last corner. You can see that Norris goes a little bit deep into turn 1 as he loses a further few tenths into turn 1, and he's 9 tenths back now. He's nearly lost the DRS to George Russell, and he has lost the DRS to George Russell there, you can see, at this moment in time. Why is Alonso holding everyone back? He's not intentionally holding everyone back. He's just not. Norris is off! Norris is off! Is this an error Is this an error of the track map? Or is Lando Norris actually off here? And it is an error with the track map. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Lando Norris stopped. There was no yellow flag, which is why I held my tongue slightly there and didn't overexert myself because there was no yellow flag. But Lando Norris is still moving. Transponder error there slightly. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. That is the nature of streaming with live data. We are at the whims. We are at the whims of the transponders. Remember all the way back to Bahrain where we had George Russell not even on track, even though he was on track. So yes, it hasn't been completely faultless, the data transmission this season, but Lando Norris is indeed in 4th place. But what I can confirm is that he has indeed lost a considerable amount of time to George Russell ahead. 1.3 seconds back to George Russell it currently is. So that sustained amount of pressure could only be sustained for around 5 laps, and now he has found himself losing time to George ahead. So I think it's definitely going to be a 2-stop race maybe for Lando Norris, with Oscar try and do the undercut on George. He needs some clean air as Colapinto now dives into the pit lane. Is this the moment where we start to see the first stint ended for these drivers? Of course, Hulkenberg pitted very early on. He has a 5-second time penalty to take for a false start, as he finds himself at the back at the moment in P19. Colapinto is going to come out and clean air. It's a very slow stop for Colapinto. He's not moving. Has he got going again? He has got going again. So Franco Colapinto, a very slow stop there for Colapinto in the pit lane. What was that the reason for? Was there a front wing change? Did he have damage to his car? Franco Colapinto, not entirely sure why he was so slow there. They haven't gone straight to the images there to see exactly why he is so slow. But yeah, very slow pit stop for Franco Colapinto. I'll try and get an update for you. He had lost a couple of positions at the start of this race, but he now finds himself dead last. Obviously, with the second driver to make a pit stop, he's going to have lost a whole chunk of time there by being held in the pit stop. Still yet to get actual information of what occurred. But he's on the hard compound tyre. No penalty to take for him. As Norris now gaining a bit more back on George Russell now. 1.1 seconds is the gap, but we know that that's not sufficient. Alonso is now 1.5 seconds ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto. So as we can see, very few drivers within the DRS of those ahead, as we are starting to see those first pit stops now from Esteban Ocon. Alex Albon are in the pit lane. So let's see how this fares for them. Let's see how this fares. Maybe it was just the data, actually, to be fair, of Franco Colapinto being held in the pits. I'm not entirely sure. But yes, Franco Colapinto there. Let's see how he fares. Coming around the last corner now, and I think he did indeed lose a considerable amount of time. As you can see, Albon there and Esteban Ocon. Did Albon just get ahead of Esteban Ocon there out of the pit lane? As Ocon goes onto the hard compound tyre, Albon is on the mediums. So they have got some free air, and Colapinto, I think, yeah, did indeed lose a considerable amount of time because he was on the back of the field there. So yes, held in his pit stop, as yes, Albon did get ahead of Esteban Ocon in the pit lane. So a slow pit stop from Esteban Ocon. It was a slow right rear, and that is how Alex Albon has been able to get ahead of Esteban Ocon in the pit lane. So a good pit stop for the Williams boys compared to that of Esteban Ocon. How is Charles Leclerc in first place still, Mark? Because he is doing a tremendous job. Thank you for the 2, buddy. Much appreciated. As Norris now on the attack. So he's now back on the rear of George Russell. Is George Russell starting to struggle with his tyres, as Piastri is 3 seconds back from Charles Leclerc. So that gap, they are lapping quite consistently, but he has lost a few temps to Charles as that gap has now gone. Oh, and actually, to be fair, he does regain that gap. He does regain it as Sainz is in the pits as well, and he is responding to a few drivers. So let's see how powerful this undercut really is. How many positions will Albon be able to gain on his teammate? As Franco Colapinto on a set of hards has just set the fastest middle sector out of anyone there. Purple middle sector for him. As Lando Norris, is he going to be able to gain in this middle sector? But when I was saying that Leclerc, that gap went to 3 seconds, we could see that Oscar Piastri regained it in the corners, in particularly out of the exit of turn 2 and turn 3, where we know that McLaren is strong in the middle, in the tight, twisty sections of this circuit. But that McLaren in race trim, the Ferrari in race trim, is very difficult for the McLaren to overtake because it has so much top speed advantage. Lewis Hamilton finds himself in 13th now as he's gained a position from Carlos Sainz pitting. He is still stuck behind Kimi Antonelli at this moment in time. Norris, though, is he going to be able to go on the attack here? How is George Russell's tyres starting to squeal a little bit? He was 4 tenths slower last time around than Oscar Piastri. He's actually put a decent lap time down there this time around. He was actually 4 tenths quicker than that of Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri did a 22.1, Leclerc did a 22.4, and Russell and Norris did 22 flats, respectively. So, Charles Leclerc maybe with a bit of a slow lap this time around. But Fernando Alonso, that gap to Bortoleto is extending quite dramatically now. Bortoleto really starting to struggle with his tyres. He was a full second quicker last time around than that of the youngster, the rookie Gabriel Bortoleto, who finds himself in P6. Max Verstappen is P7 at the moment. Lance Stroll is in 8th. Lawson is in 9th. Behrman is 10th. Hadjar is 11th. Antonelli is 12th. And Hamilton is 13th, with Gasly 14th as well. As Norris is reporting, my problem is not turn 2, it's the last 3 corners when he is told where to improve. And that is the case for Lando, and that's because that's where he really needs the rear traction from that McLaren. In the dirty air of the Mercedes, it's difficult for him to stay close, because those are the corners where he really needs the grip. But it's at the end of the lap, of course, where the tyres are starting to hurt a bit, but it's where you need the most amount, and he's struggling to stay close. In under that half a second there, and you can see through turn 12 that interval time, 1 second now that gap has gone out to. He's actually going to lose DRS here and not even have it down into the first corner and the second corner. And yes, indeed, he has lost DRS, Lando Norris there. So struggling in the last couple of corners, turn 12, 13 and 14, the McLaren in the dirty air of George Russell, and he's losing ground on his teammate this whole time. Fernando Alonso, let's see what his lap time is as he crosses the line. And Fernando Alonso is actually the quickest driver out on track at the moment, other than Franco Colapinto. He's the quickest driver out on track who has not made a pit stop yet. At 21.7, he's actually quicker than the leaders. He's on the push at the moment, Fernando Alonso, trying to build that gap to Bortoleto and Verstappen, who has just decided to pit. So we'll see what Verstappen comes out onto. What is he going to go on to? Max Verstappen. Is it a set of hard compound tyres, or is it another set of mediums? I do suspect it will be the hard compound tyre, as he did have a set available to him. And yes, he is on a set of hard compound tyres. Slots in comfortably ahead of Carlos Sainz there. And, well, he'll be looking to do the undercut on Fernando Alonso and Gabriel Bortoleto. Let's see if Bortoleto and Fernando Alonso respond to this. Maybe this is why Alonso is deciding to push at this stage of the race. He would love a top 5 Fernando Alonso here in the Aston Martin, which has been very strong here this weekend with a brand new front wing. It seems to have worked wonders for them, with Stroll also in P7 at this moment in time. He's being chased down by Liam Lawson, but he does not have the pace of his teammate, who did a 21.7 last time around, and Stroll did a 23.2. Now Norris gains the DRS again as Piastri pits. Piastri pits from second place. There was around a 2.6, 2.5 second gap between him and Charles Leclerc. And, well, this is it. Will Charles Leclerc respond? We know that the undercut is powerful here, but how powerful is it going to be? This is an important lap for Charles Leclerc, as Max Verstappen does the fastest middle sector of anyone on the medium compound tyre. It's hammer time for Oscar Piastri now on his outlap. Can he gain even more points here? And another position over Charles Leclerc, over his teammate Norris, who is in P3 at the moment, but net losing, it was net P4. So let's see how he fares. He gets out ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto. He's got important clean air here. Let's see how this outlap is. Will Charles Leclerc respond, or will Ferrari keep him out there? As Verstappen, on a brand new set of hards, goes purple in the middle and the second sector. Charles making his way down into the last couple of corners now, turn 12 and turn 13 and 14. Of course, the pit lane entry is out of the exit of turn 13. Let's see what he does as Norris is closing in a lot on George Russell now. Will Lando Norris extend, or will he come in as Leclerc stays out? Leclerc stays out. He's not responding. No, he is in. Leclerc is in. Apologies. I thought he was staying out there. Leclerc is in. Russell is in. Norris extends. So a difference in strategy here potentially for the two McLarens, as we predicted, as Norris extends here and takes the lead of the Hungarian Grand Prix. He has clean air ahead of him for the first time this race. Oscar Piastri has pitted. Charles Leclerc responded to the undercut. But can Piastri get ahead of him? He's heading down the start-finish straight now as Charles Leclerc is leaving the exit of the pit lane. And Charles Leclerc still leads this race. Net leads this race, with Alonso still yet to pit, with Norris still yet to pit. But what Piastri has done is that he's closed that gap from nearly 3 seconds to just over a second at this moment in time. A purple middle sector there for Piastri, a purple middle sector in the last sector as well. He's actually Under a second. He's going to be under a second and putting the pressure on Charles Leclerc for sure now, as he has an extra lap of tyres of warmth in his tyres. He will be able to get potentially on the back of Charles Leclerc, but we know that dirty air is essential. But Charles is finding himself behind Fernando Alonso at this moment in time. So could Charles be held up by the former Ferrari driver of Fernando Alonso? It is potentially the case. It is potentially the case. Charles Leclerc, fastest first sector for Nico Hülkenberg of all people. Wow. Wow, just hide those people from the chat, please, mods, if you can, so that they are no longer able to post links and so forth. But much appreciate everyone for tuning in, as always. 13,000 of you here. Let's get this stream to over 1,000 likes. Thank you. If you are just tuning in, we have 50 laps remaining of this race. It is Lando Norris, who is yet to make a pit stop, who lost a couple of positions at the start of this race, is in P1. Oscar Piastri sets the fastest lap of the race there with a 21 flat, but he is not able to really close so much on Charles Leclerc. He does get past Fernando Alonso, potentially down into turn one. This is essential for Charles Leclerc's race here, and he does, as Bortoleto is looking to put the pressure on. Oh, sorry, George Russell gets past Bortoleto as well. That was essential for his aspirations today. But Lando Norris out up front. He currently has a 14-second lead over Oscar Piastri without yet to make a pit stop. And well, if let's say the positions were to stay as they are, of course we know that Alonso is still yet to make a pit stop himself. There would be quite a significant points gain for Lando Norris. But Lando may be going for the one-stop here as Tsunoda decides to dive into the pit lane. Maybe Piastri is going to go for the two-stop. We don't know what is going to happen. But yes, as we've seen so often this season thus far, with the two McLarens allowed to fight, not only out on track, but they're allowed to fight in the pit lane as well in relation, or on the pit wall with their strategies. They're able to split them, and that is what I think we are seeing here today. How long will Lando Norris be able to take this tyre? Let's see how far he goes. He did 21.7 last time around on a set of 20-lap mediums. How is Oscar Piastri? I mean, he's getting hurt here, Oscar Piastri, as Fernando Alonso is fighting for position. Fernando Alonso isn't going to let Oscar Piastri pass easily, but I don't think he's going to have too much of an answer here, as Piastri is already 2 tenths behind the Aston Martin. He has the DRS open, and yes, I think Fernando Alonso might have even just lifted a little bit there as he got past him before they even went into the braking zone down into turn one. The hard tyre should be on a one-stop. It may be, it may not. We don't know how long that hard compound tyre is going to last here. We have seen, as Kimi Antonelli dives into the pit lane, we have seen, of course, this circuit, even with the cooler track temperatures that we're seeing here today, 50 laps is still a long way to go on a hard compound tyre here. So, yes, will Piastri go that long? We will see. Or will Lando Norris try and do a two-stop and be more aggressive? I think he's definitely going to have to try something different for sure. But George Russell, a fastest first lap there for him, of 20.850 at this moment in time. So Pirelli did suggest that a one-stop would be pitting lap 25 to 31. So we're on the potential cusp of a one-stop for sure. But it depends whether or not they're able to, especially if they're not in clean air and they're in dirty air. But the longer Lando Norris, of course, can extend, the more fresher tyres he's going to have at the end of the race as Verstappen gets past Nico Hülkenberg back into P13 there. Of course, a number of drivers ahead of him still yet to pit. Lewis Hamilton and Gasly, who started on the hard compound tyre, trying to go as long as possible, as Charles Leclerc sets the fastest middle sector out of anyone there at 28.7. And well, Lando Norris is losing quite a bit of time at this moment, 20.099. So he's losing about a second per lap to Charles Leclerc behind. He does have an 11-second lead at the moment. We'll see how it fares for him. Of course, George Russell, he was behind George Russell before George Russell decided to pit. But let's have a run through this grid at the moment. Let's see if anyone else, as they come through, decides to pit. Don't think so. But it is Norris leading from Charles Leclerc, who has made a pit stop. Norris yet to make a pit stop. Piastri is in third, a 2.3-second gap to Leclerc. That undercut didn't work for Oscar Piastri. Fernando Alonso still yet to pit as well, finds himself in 4th place, being chased down by George Russell, who has pitted as well on the hard compound tyre. Gabriel Bortoleto is in P6, with Stroll in 7th. Lawson is in 8th, and Behrman is in 9th, with Hadjar in 10th. Hamilton is in 11th, Gasly in 12th. All those drivers I just mentioned there from Bortoleto downwards have yet to make a pit stop. Max Verstappen in 13th has made a solitary pit stop, and he's on the hard compound tyre, and he's on the attack of Pierre Gasly. Hülkenberg is in 14th, Sainz is 15th, with Albon just behind him in 16th. Esteban Ocon is in 17th, Colapinto is in 18th, with Antonelli in 19th, who has just made a pit stop, and Tsunoda is in 20th. So that is the state of affairs with 24 laps complete on the 24th lap of this 70-lap race here at the Hungaroring. 47 laps remaining. Still a very long way to go. Still a long way to take a set of hard compound tyres. 50-odd laps here. We will see as Lando Norris radio. So this is either plan A, look to extend, or plan D, just keep talking to us about the tyres. And there is no plan D. Plan D for Lando? So it's either plan A or plan D. Don't know what plan A is, don't know what plan D is, but we will see. We will see. But thank you everyone for tuning in as always. If you could hit that like and subscribe button, let's get this over nearly 14,000 of you in here for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Great to see you back. As always, we have 10 race weekends remaining after this. We go to a 3-week break. Then we return with Zandvoort as Verstappen does dispatch Pierre Gasly there down into turn 2. Verstappen up into P12 now. He's down 4 positions at the moment, but he has made a pit stop with the next 6 cars ahead of him yet to dive into the pit lane. So Verstappen will be looking at the rear wing of the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton, who is looking to go long on this first in on the hard compound tyre. And well, with much fresher tyres, you do suspect it'll be a matter of time when he overtakes him, as Hamilton is eyeing up Hadjar up ahead. But Norris, 10 seconds, 9.5 seconds is the gap to Leclerc now. He's looking to extend. Maybe is it a 1-stop? Is it a 2-stop? Yeah, still not sure what drivers are going to be on, to be perfectly honest with you. But yes, thank you as always. We head to Zandvoort next. Then we head to Monza to end the European swing before we then head all the way over to Baku, Azerbaijan and Singapore. And George Russell is on the attack of Fernando Alonso now. We've seen these two go wheel-to-wheel plenty of times. Will he be able to overtake him? He's on much fresher tyres, 5-lap old hards compared to Alonso on 25-lap mediums. They're side. Oh, Russell thinks about it down into turn 2, and Alonso holds him off. And that's not going to be ideal for George Russell. But Lando Norris will be looking at that quite nicely. But he might not even have to worry about George Russell when he eventually comes out. We will see for a second pit stop as Verstappen is told, guys, this is really terrible. This idea. I've pitted in so much traffic. Cue Max Verstappen on the radio. Tradition as old as time. Max Verstappen on the radio, getting feisty to his pit wall at the Hungaroring, as we saw it last year and in times gone by as well. But yes, not happy. Max Verstappen complaining that he got pitted into traffic as he finds himself in P12. And while he does have 3 cars ahead of him in close proximity, Lewis Hamilton, Isaac Hadjar and Ollie Behrman from 9th to 11th. So, yes, George Russell, a replay there of George Russell. He's all over the rear wing of Fernando Alonso. He cannot get past him. He almost touched the rear. He almost touched the rear of Fernando Alonso with a bit of a late move, to be honest with you, down into turn 2 last time around. Let's see if George Russell can dispatch him this time around. He's got a DRS open. It's Mercedes engine versus Mercedes engine, but a much quicker Mercedes powered car here this weekend. The works team, of course, of Mercedes in George Russell's hands dispatches Alonso finally and down into turn 2 and finds himself back up into P4 where he started. But yes, guys, please hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get this stream to 53,000 subscribers. Nearly at 53,000 subscribers would be much appreciated. As there is a message to Piastri. Do you think the 1-stop would work? Difficult, Oscar. Oscar asks, do you think the 1-stop will work? And the garage reports, his engineer reports, it's going to be difficult, Oscar. So, is this Norris on the 1-stop strategy and a split strategy for Piastri on the 2-stop? Let's see how this plays out today. They're saying it's going to be a tall order for Oscar Piastri to do the 1-stop as Norris is extending. He is being closed down by Charles Leclerc at a rate of knots. A 21.9 last time around, a 22.1 this time around for Lando Norris. Let's see what Charles Leclerc's is. He's losing around a second per lap at this moment in time to Charles Leclerc and Piastri, but he's looking to do a 1-stop. He's looking to gain potentially 20 seconds out on track by not stopping at this moment in time. And well, it's a 21.1 for Leclerc there compared to Norris's 22.1. So yes, another full second lost from Norris to Charles Leclerc. But of course, he wants to gain points on his championship leader and teammate rival Piastri, who currently finds himself unable to really take it to Charles Leclerc at this moment in time. So we'll see how this plays out for Lando Norris with 44 laps remaining. He's looking to extend this medium compound stint, lose a bit of time here, but then regain it and hold track position on a hard compound tyre. It's going to be a very, very interesting end to this race, as I potentially predicted. It's my prediction that they would be on split strategies play out. As Hamilton says, bit of a sitting duck behind these guys at the moment as he finds himself in P11 on the hard compound tyre, but that is his strategy. That is what they chose, to start on the alternate hard compound tyre while as everyone else was on the mediums. There's not enough of a delta at this moment in time for Hamilton to get past them because he has Hadjar struggling to get past Ollie Behrman. And, well, he's now got Max Verstappen, who is not happy. He's been pitted into traffic behind him in P12 as well. And there's a bit of a train forming behind Ollie Behrman with Gasly, Hulkenberg and Sainz soon joining that as well. But, yes, as we run through this grid, Norris finds himself in P1 with Leclerc still yet to make a pit stop with Leclerc in P2. Closing him down, though. Another second gained. Over a second gained. 1.2 seconds gained that time around on Lando Norris as he's on a fresh set of hard compound tyres. Oscar Piastri is 1.7 seconds behind Charles Leclerc in P3. He has made a pit stop and has been informed that a one stop will be difficult today from his engineer, so maybe another pit stop on the cards for Oscar Piastri. George Russell finds himself in P4. He got held up behind Fernando Alonso for a bit longer than he would like to, as Alonso is in 5th ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto and his teammate Stroll in 7th quite comfortably at the moment. There is an 8.4 second gap from Fernando Alonso in P5 to Gabriel Bortoleto in P6. So Fernando Alonso on the cards, yet to make a pit stop still, with many drivers behind him still also yet to make a pit stop, potentially on for a top 5 today at Hungary. As there is a Charles Leclerc says, I can feel what we discussed before the race. We need to discuss those things before doing those. Oh dearie me, what have Ferrari changed on Charles Leclerc's car before they went to the grid box? They've changed something to Charles's car without his permission. It may be a front wing alteration. It may be there's only limited amount of things that they can change. There's only a couple of things that they can change on the car, of course, without breaking Part Ferme rules. And clearly, Charles is now feeling that, and he does not like it. Radio from... Hang on. As Lando is told, it's 40 laps on a hard compound tyre for a one-stop. Are you game for it? And he's gone, why not? Why not? So, yes, Lando Norris coming in a couple of laps' time. 42 laps remaining. What has he got to lose? That is definitely it for Lando Norris, of course, because he found himself behind Oscar Piastri at the start of this race, and he lost a couple of positions at the start as well, with Oscar Piastri looking like he's potentially going to have to take his hard compound tyre either really slowly to the end to try and hold on to track position, or he's going to have to relinquish it potentially to his teammate. It could be very close between them towards the end. As Leclerc says, we are going to lose the race with these things. We are losing so much time, as Charles is not happy at the moment. And, well, this could be Charles getting very agitated behind the wheel at the moment. Piastri is 1.7 seconds. He's not exactly gaining considerably on on him at the moment. Yes, Charles not happy in that car whatsoever, with Lando Norris trying to do the one stop, with then potentially Charles and Piastri doing a two stop, as Hamilton now dives. As Hamilton is not diving into the pit lane, apologies, the data is now screwing me again and scaring me, as I thought he had lost a couple of positions there. No, he just got overtaken by Max Verstappen there. So Max has got past Lewis Hamilton, and he is now looking on the attack of Isaac Hadjar, as Hamilton is not happy. As Norris has been told, we are going to try it. As Max Verstappen poked a nose on Lewis Hamilton, and that's why Hamilton went very wide there through turn 4. Lewis Hamilton to go very wide. Max Verstappen very bold, very impatient through turn 4, poked a nose, and that could have been a very, very big crash if Lewis Hamilton didn't pull out of that move just there. As I'm watching a replay, he had a very good run into turn 4. Was he entitled to racing room there? I mean, he wasn't. To be fair, Max wasn't entitled to racing room there. Lewis could have turned in, but it would have been a catastrophic crash there from Lewis. But Max, importantly, has got the move done. And it looks like he's got the move done on Isaac Hadjar potentially as well, as he's all under the rear wing of him heading into turn 3. Will it be a repeat of what he just did to Lewis Hamilton through turn 4? No, not this time around, as he's not quite close enough. But he will be probably on the blower to get Isaac Hadjar out of the way in that young, of course, that junior team. But Lewis is struggling at the moment. Yes, Lewis is struggling at this moment in time, of course, on the hard compound tyre. Going for the one stop. Maybe he'll be more aggressive on the second stop, but it's not the Lewis we expected to see this weekend, of course. Out of circuit, he's won at so many times. So, Lando is in that window now, trying to eke out the tyres as much as possible to do the one stop on a set of hard compound tyres. Of course, Charles Leclerc has closed down that gap dramatically. 3.3 seconds is Charles Leclerc. Is closing down to Norris, but with a second pit stop, it's going to be interesting because Lando is, by the time they make a second pit stop, Lando is going to be right in that window of them. He's almost lost that 20-second advantage, really, to Leclerc and Piastri as they've closed up that singular pit stop. So they're kind of like, well, I guess they're kind of on that window right now. They're kind of like level playing. Lando will have to pit as Behrman now decides to pit and gets out of the way. Thankfully, probably for Max Verstappen, as he has a clear track ahead of him now. Perfect timing for Max Verstappen as he was complaining of traffic, and as he got up behind him, he moves out of his way. So we'll see how much progression Verstappen can do. Currently in P9 with Lawson yet to make a pit stop. So as it currently stands, what's the gap to Fernando Alonso? It's 26 seconds at this moment in time. So Max is on the fight for a P5 here. Fernando Alonso would love, of course, to keep a hold of this top 5, but it could be, as Norris does now, dive into the pit lanes. Lando into the pit lane, guys, as Lando is now pitting for this one stop. As he said, 40 laps relayed to him by his engineer on a set of hard compound tyres, and this is what is going to be on to the end of the race. So this is interesting. Very interesting times here, guys, here at the Hungaroring. Everyone in the top 4 now has made a pit stop. Lando comes out ahead of Fernando Alonso. And, well, cars, there we go. Turn 4 incident involving cars. Verstappen and Hamilton noted there. So, he definitely wasn't far enough alongside to warrant racing room on the inside. So I wonder if he's going to... I tell you what, that would be something, wouldn't it, if Verstappen gets a penalty for that. Because he gained the position and forced Lewis off. I don't think Lewis has been on the radio complaining about it. That's from the stewards entirely investigating that. But we'll see. It's not really for anything of a valid position because they're not fighting for a lot down in the points at the moment. But the big story here, of course, is that Charles Leclerc is back leading this race with 39 laps remaining. Nearly not even halfway through this Hungarian Grand Prix yet, guys. With Oscar Piastri closing that gap on Charles, 1.4 seconds now. He's not happy with his car. He is upset with the Ferrari engineers making a slight change to his car without his approval. He says he can feel the change in his car at this moment in time. This is potentially is going to cost him the race. George Russell has made a pit stop already. He is 12 laps pitted earlier than Lando Norris. He's 8.4 seconds ahead of Lando, who has just made that solitary pit stop. It is expected that Charles Piastri and George Russell will make a second pit stop here. So that is really going to provide an interesting end to this race with Lando on the one stop. Fernando Alonso still yet to make a pit stop here in P5. He is 7.8 seconds ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto. But the gap from Alonso to Verstappen is closing. But Verstappen is potentially going to be making a second pit stop himself. So Alonso is on course today for a top 5. Gabriel Bortoleto in 6th, still yet to make a pit stop, as well as Lance Stroll in P7. Lawson is in 8th, being chased down by Verstappen, but that gap is 10 seconds at the moment. So quite a big gap there. Verstappen wasn't happy. Finds himself in P9. Currently under investigation for a turn 4 incident, as we mentioned, poking a nose on Lewis Hamilton. Lewis had to take avoiding action there in the kink of turn 4, a very fast corner, and yes, he gained the position and is now being investigated as such. So he is in P9. Hadjar is in P10. Hamilton still yet to make a pit stop in P11 as Gasly, the only other driver on the second set of hard compound tyres to start this race, is now pitting and is in dead last in 20th. Hulkenberg is in 12th at the moment, pitted very early, the first pitter at the end of the 5th lap. Carlos Sainz is in 13th with Albon 14th, Ocon 15th, Colapinto 16th, Antonelli in 17th, Tsunoda 18th, Behrman 19th, and yes, as we mentioned, Gasly now at the rear. But Piastri not really able to gain significantly on Leclerc. He gained a 10th last time around, but now he's starting to get into that proper dirty air window. He's starting to get on the cusp of that 1.5 second range of Charles Leclerc. You're starting to see Piastri's tyres just start to slip a bit more, just lose a bit of rear traction, and he's not able to gain as much as you would expect in that McLaren. He does have, of course, 2 lap older tyres than that of Charles, but Charles is definitely on course for a win here today. And I tell you what, it's going to be very intriguing to see how this battle plays out between Piastri and Norris. Does Piastri just try and hold on now to the end of this race as Hadjar now dives into the pit lane? It's a very long way to go on the hard compound tyre. He wanted the one stop. His engineer said a one stop is going to be tough, and they're probably advising against it. But I think we could see here today at the end of this race, we're going to see the two McLarens converge out on track. And it probably won't be for the race win, but it will definitely be important in the overall story for the Drivers' Championship. Because as it currently stands, ladies and gentlemen, if the order was to finish as it is, Oscar Piastri in P2 would be gaining 18 points and Lando Norris in P4 would be gaining 12. That would mean that Oscar Piastri gains a further 6 points over his championship rival in P2, and he would go into the summer break with a 22 points advantage, nearly just short of a full race win at 25 points, as Norris does a 20.752. So he is 18.5 seconds behind Lando Norris as he crossed the line there, where he is now behind Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri. And remember, he is within that pit stop range. If Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri make a pit stop now, they would indeed come out behind Lando Norris. So Norris needs to look after his tyres, have a fine balance right now of keeping up the pace, but ensuring he looks after his tyres and that he makes it to the end. But he will be under attack at the end of the race. It is when Leclerc and Piastri decide to pit and how many laps they want to go on the attack. Because as it currently stands, Lando Norris will be gaining the lead of this race, unless George Russell is able to do something unbelievable here and take these hard compound tyres even further than that of those ahead of him. That would be something, wouldn't it? Do not count out George Russell. How many times have we said he does nothing and finds himself on the podium? Well, that could be very well the case today. He could find himself on the top step as it currently stands. But yes, 35 laps remaining. We are now officially through the halfway point of this race, and well, it's very intriguing. Reconfirmation there of Verstappen and Hamilton under investigation for a Turn 4 incident. Considering there's not really too much to investigate here today, the only other investigation that the stewards have actually enabled us or enlightened us of is the race start, with Hülkenberg receiving a 5-second time penalty for a false start. I'm surprised that is taking quite a long amount of time. As Oscar Piastri is told, how is the tyre, Oscar? Do you think you can get to the end on another hard tyre from here? If I pit again, yes. So Oscar Piastri really kind of confirming there, if I pit again, yes, but not on this current set of hard compound tyres. That gap, 17.6 seconds to Charles Leclerc right now, and 15 seconds really to his teammate Oscar Piastri. And well, the important thing for Norris is that if they pit again, which it looks like they're going to, Leclerc and Piastri, there will be 2 cars between him and his teammate, and a car that Piastri has not been able to get past this whole race thus far. So we will see. We will see how this is going to fare, of course. This is what we see so often here at the Hungaroring. Those are much fresher tyres at the end of the race, going on the attack with an extra pit stop on those who have held on to track position. The question is, how long can Lando keep up this pace, and how can he keep these tyres in check? We do know that Lando, there was discussions at the start of this race, who is better at tyre management between the two McLaren drivers, and I did particularly say, but still at this moment in time, Norris has that edge when it comes to tyre management. However, Piastri has made leaps and bounds when it comes to that element of racing, something that he was most undoubtedly a weakness of his in his first season, but in his third season he has most definitely got on top of. But this is where Lando Norris could gain some important points here. It looked like it could be a 6-point swing today between Piastri and Norris. There's still a very long way to go in this race. It could still be a 6-point swing in Piastri's favour, extending his championship lead into the summer break. But it could also be a decrease. It could be a swing more so in Norris's direction. But still, Piastri, regardless, will be going into the 3-week break with a championship lead. That is the all-important thing for the Australian. But Lewis Hamilton moves himself up into P9 with some pit stops there from Lance, with a pit stop from Lance Stroll. Finally, the Aston Martins are making a pit stop, 37 laps on the medium compound tyres. That is a fair effort. Fernando Alonso is still out there at the moment as Lance Stroll comes in right between the two Williams there and gets out just ahead of Alex Albon. Alex Albon really trying to hold on to that position there, but he's on 22 lap mediums. We're still yet to see. I'm intrigued to see when we're going to see that second pit stop from those guys who have already made one already. It is an interesting 33 laps remaining. It is a very, very long race here today, guys, and I appreciate everyone for tuning in as always. 16,000 of you here at the moment, only 1,300 likes. thank you as always. Please continue to hit the subscribe button. Let's get this stream to 55,000 subs, shall we? Surely there's 2,000 of you in here who haven't hit that subscribe button yet. If you are enjoying these watch-alongs, we provide you with plenty of F1 content, and we're here for every single F1 session throughout a weekend. I can't believe we're already halfway through, more than halfway through this very long F1 season with 10 race weekends remaining. But let's have a run through of this grid, shall we? As we have hit lap 38 of this race. It is Charles Leclerc leading 1.8 seconds from Oscar Piastri, who is just unable to close the gap on Charles Leclerc at this moment in time. As George Russell was informed, these are still really good lap times, George. Just keep banging them in. Just let me drive, George Russell responds. So George Russell could potentially be winning this race today if he decides to stick to the one stop. However, Lando Norris is closing that gap on George Russell now. That gap is now under 16 seconds. You can see there in the interval time, if that interval gap, if it is highlighted, if it is encircled in green, it means that they are gaining on the driver ahead. Of course, if it is fully highlighted, it means that they are in the DRS, as you can see there, as Hadjar gets ahead of Ollie Behrman down into turn 2, and he would be really happy to see the back of Ollie Behrman, who he got stuck behind at the end of the first stint. As Lando Norris is told by his engineer Will, just keep the focus. We don't want those mistakes. A bit of a flick round the heads or back of the head or flick round the ear there from Will, his engineer. Don't make those mistakes. As he pumps in a fastest lap of the race of 20.4, which is a full second quicker than that of George Russell and a second quicker than that of his teammate Piastri, who did a 21.5 last time around. But yes, it is Charles Leclerc currently leading from Oscar Piastri, who has not been able to close the gap on the Ferrari ahead. As we know, that Ferrari much quicker in a straight line. The McLaren is quickest in clean air, but it struggles when it finds another Formula 1 car ahead of itself that is most definitely not of the same colour in papaya. George Russell in P3, Lando Norris in P4, as we have Fernando Alonso in P5, still yet to make a pit stop, going very, very long here, but has a comfortable gap and is going to look like he's going to get a top 5 today. If the other drivers behind him are looking like they're going to make a second pit stop, as Albon dives in for the first time for that second pit stop. He's the first driver to take a... Oh, sorry. Yuki Tsunoda is the first driver to take a second pit stop. Apologies, as Yuki is on a set of hard, as is... Colapinto. Oh, my God. I'm getting this wrong here. Colapinto, Tsunoda and Albon, who find themselves in 18th, 19th and 20th. They are the drivers at the moment who have made the second pit stop, as Lando pumps in another fastest lap. 14 seconds now is the gap to Norris and Charles Leclerc at the front, with Piastri a further 1.6 seconds behind Charles Leclerc, or 1.5 seconds behind Charles Leclerc at the moment. He did gain about a tenth there. He gained a couple of tenths there last time around on Charles, but he's getting right in that dirty air window. As Alonso now finally pits. Lap 39 for Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso dives into the pit lane, and where is he going to find himself? Gabriel Bortoleto finds himself in the top 5. This is a great drive from Gabriel Bortoleto today, as it is from Liam Lawson as well, who's being chased down by Max Verstappen. Looks like a split strategy today, potentially from the RB teams. Hadjar found himself caught behind Ollie Behrman. Hang on. As Piastri says, let's focus on Lando more so than Leclerc when told on the radio. Bigger picture for Oscar Piastri, of course. He'd love the race win, but it is all about the battle with Lando Norris and extending his championship lead and trying to gain there, as Charles Leclerc pits and is out of P1 into P2. Piastri gains the lead of this race, and well, Piastri, what is he going to do? Is he going to respond here and go onto the hard compound tyres? Of course, it's not so much the undercut. He was offered the undercut on Charles Leclerc, and he said, I'd much rather focus on Lando. Beating Lando is the more realistic decision for us, as he is looking to try and extend his championship lead, which currently sits at 16 points. Lando Norris is on the one stop. He is going to find himself out behind Lando Norris with an 11-second lead currently over his teammate, with on average 20-second pit stop lost time here at the Hungaroring, of course, with a decent pit stop, as Piastri is being prepared to come in this lap. The McLaren engineers are in the pit lane. They have the tyres ready. The Piastri is coming into the pit lane. There are 30 laps remaining of this Hungarian Grand Prix, and Piastri is going to have to go on the attack on his teammate Lando Norris, who is on the 1-stop. Piastri is going to be on the 2-stop, and we should see the McLaren drivers go at it with 30 laps remaining here. This is what we were signed up for. This is what I predicted at the start of this race. And, well, Turn 4 incident involving Verstappen and Hamilton will be investigated after the race. Not entirely sure why that's necessarily required. But, yes, Charles Leclerc pumps in a fastest middle sector there. Oscar Piastri, no, he doesn't pit. Oscar stays out more. The McLaren engineers did come out into the garage, but they have kept Piastri out for a bit longer. So Piastri is extending a bit here. Let's see. Hang on. Six seconds gap to Pierre Gasly. So they're looking to try and build a gap to Lando now. So they're trying to utilise this gap to Lando. So what they're looking to do is for Piastri to gain the time on Pierre Gasly up ahead, pit him once he catches, so that he does not come out 10 seconds behind Lando Norris. That is his plan, as Lando is starting to catch George Russell. And, well, interesting times here. So ideally what Piastri is looking for is that George Russell holds up Lando Norris, and that that he closes the gap to Gasly and gains. And well, that gap ultimately is a lot closer when he eventually exits the pits. Potentially even comes out ahead of his teammate. It's going to be very, very close. Are we potentially going to have a moment like Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen where they came out of the pit lane and tangled, of course, in Monza down into turn 1? Could we potentially see something like that here? We've already seen them go very close together in practice, with Lando Norris coming out of the pit lane on Oscar Piastri and nearly colliding. Could something like that happen here? But George Russell, I think it is only a matter of time until Lando dispatches George, as George does not have the grip. He has 23 lap-old hards compared to Lando's 12 lap-old hards, and you can see the advantage that he is able to gain there, Lando, on George Russell. Could he potentially get him as he heads down into turn 2? No, not this time around, but he's going to have to use a bit more time than he wants to, as Max Verstappen radio here. Bortoletto and Lawson have now pitted. We are considering leaving you out. So they want to leave Max. Max reports, well, that's not going to be easy. So Max has cleared track ahead of him. It's either that, Max, or you get pitted back into traffic. So yes, Max Verstappen going to have to try and go a very, very long way on a set of hard compound tyres. Over 50 laps it will be for Max Verstappen on a set of hards by the time he ends this race. So, but if anyone can do it, we know Max can. He is very good on his tyres. As Lewis Hamilton finally dives into the pit lane, 42 laps on this set of hard compound tyres. We'll see how he fares. Thank you for the subs, by the way, guys. Much appreciated. And for the 2 there as well. And the 1 from Mario. Thank you, guys. As always, please hit that subscribe button. Much appreciated. Nearly 18,000 of you here in the stream for this Hungarian Grand Prix. It is looking like it's going to be a very, very tense end to this race. As George Russell dives into the pit lane, Lando will be thanking George there and saluting him as he saw him dive into the pit lane there, and he didn't have to worry about staying behind the Mercedes driver for any longer than necessary. So, wow. That is most definitely not what Oscar Piastri wanted. He's got ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton gives the position to Oscar. Well, I say gives the position. He wasn't able to hold him up for that long. I thought Hamilton would be able to hold Piastri, but he has just come out of the pit lane on a set of medium compound tyres, and that hasn't been ideal. No, it's a blue flag. Apologies. It's a blue flag for Lewis Hamilton. Sorry. It's a blue flag. Apologies. Hamilton down in 16th place at the moment. I thought he was going to be able to hold up Oscar Piastri for Charles Leclerc a little bit there, but because it's blue flags, he had to hold off. He had to let Piastri by. So Lewis Hamilton on that pit stop, on that solitary pit stop on the medium compound tyre to the end. But the gap, importantly, to Piastri and Norris right now is 9 seconds. So Piastri yet to make a pit stop. And, well, he is looking like he's going to lose maybe potentially a position to Charles Leclerc, because it's 15 seconds is the gap to Charles Leclerc. And, well, Lando, it still has to take these tyres a very long way to the end. Charles Leclerc is chasing down Lando at the moment, though. 21.447 last time around for Lando, but he was stuck behind George Russell. Let's see how he fares as he crosses the line here. Leclerc can go, of course, a lot quicker. It's a 20.1, so Lando has plenty of pace in hand if he wants to pretty much at this moment in time cover off Charles Leclerc, who was gaining slightly. He's 6 seconds behind, 6.5 seconds behind Lando Norris. The gap to Piastri, though, is 8.7 seconds, and Piastri, they're trying to utilise this free air that he has to Pierre Gasly ahead, and, well, he's actually losing time to his teammate. they can't. Are they going to keep Piastri out there to the end of the race? Are they? Is he going to be able to make this set of hard compound tyres to the end? It'd be tremendous if he does. But Lando is catching him at a rate of knots. I think regardless of whether Piastri decides to stay out there on this hard compound tyre to the end of the race, or whether he decides to pit on a set of another set of tyres, well, if he pits now, Piastri, he's going to come out behind Charles Leclerc with a 15-second gap to Charles Leclerc. So he's definitely not going to be able to get... Well, he could get past Charles Leclerc, but we've already seen him fail miserably to get past him, even with the undercut and so forth. Would he have a significant advantage on tyres by the time he catches Charles Leclerc, which he would have to. He'd have to get past Charles and then have to get past, as Piastri does pit. Piastri does pit. So yes, this is confirmation here of a two-stop for Oscar Piastri. Thinking of the bigger picture, but Lando Norris is the leader of this race. Lando Norris on the one stop, who started P3, who ended up in P5 at the end of the first lap, now finds himself with a one-stop strategy in the lead with Charles Leclerc in second, 7 seconds behind. Oscar Piastri comes out. How many seconds behind is he behind Charles Leclerc? We will see, but he's going to have to get past Charles Leclerc and then his teammate, with 25 laps remaining, if he wants to further extend his championship lead here today. This race has completely flipped on its head, ladies and gentlemen, and we are in for 25 laps of complete quali laps from Oscar Piastri. We saw Lando Norris have to do the same in Spa last time around, and well, now it's roles reversed for Oscar Piastri, except he has to catch and overtake not just Leclerc, but his teammate in P1. Can Lando make this last? And, well, can Charles Leclerc secure a P2 for him today? Well, this is very, very interesting. Pit stop lost time is 20.5 seconds here at the... It says it was a sub 2 second pit stop from McLaren there. Unbelievable pit stop there for McLaren on Oscar Piastri. That is absolutely sublime. No time lost really in the pit lane for Oscar Piastri there, other than outside of what the normal pit stop loss time is here, which is 20.5 seconds. But Lando Norris finds himself in P1. Charles Leclerc is P2. Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc have made their second pit stops, as Piastri is in P3. He is comfortably ahead of George Russell, who is in P4, 6.3 seconds ahead. But Piastri has to push here now. We'll see how he fares with Lando Norris having to try and take these tyres to the end of the race, and he is 16 laps older hard compound tyres than that of his teammates. Piastri, so what would that do to the championship standings as it currently stands if Norris finishes P1 and Piastri finishes P3? Well, Piastri would get 15 points and Norris would gain 25, so there would be a 10-point swing in the opposite direction. It looked like it was going to be a 6-point swing in Piastri's favour, and that is now no longer the case. The points deficit would decrease to 6 points heading into the summer break before we head to Zandvoort. That is the current championship standings if they finish as they are. As Norris says, let's do everything we can for blue flags, please. Let's be a bit more proactive with it. As Lando, of course, will be suffering with some dirty air from blue flags as he is caught and overtaken Yuki Tsunoda. He is now catching Alex Albon as Lewis Hamilton is on the rear wing of Ollie Bearman on a brand new set of medium compound tyres. How much pace does that Ferrari have in a straight line over the Haas? They supply engines to Haas, but the Ferrari, as we can see from Charles Leclerc, in Charles Leclerc's hands at least, is a quick car here this weekend, and he dispatches him with a brand new set of mediums and finds himself up in P15 now. Lewis Hamilton not really able to make any ground today, but on an alternate strategy compared to everyone around. But what's interesting at the moment is that Charles Leclerc, on a brand new set, on a 10-lap fresher set of hard compound tyres, is not able to match Lando Norris's times of a 20.3. And well, this is where the McLaren we know is much stronger in clean air than it is in dirty air. Piastri's lap last time around was a 19.6, so that was a gap of 6 tenths there, pretty much over 6 tenths of Piastri on Lando Norris. Of course, there's 23 laps remaining. He has 11.2 seconds between him and his teammate as it currently stands. And well, I think Leclerc, by the time Piastri catches Leclerc, he will be able to dispatch the Ferrari of Charles. It depends how much Charles Leclerc is able to hold off the McLaren. He has been able to today so far, but Piastri is definitely a man who is going to be on the charge right now. Lando Norris is going to have to finally manage his tyres, ensure that he has enough for if his teammates, maybe when he actually eventually catches him. But he currently has a 11 second lead over his teammate at this moment in time. Max is catching up. Max is currently P5 at the moment with Fernando Alonso in P6. There could be a battle here for P5 with Fernando Alonso and Max Verstappen come the end of the race, as Max Verstappen is on 30 lap old hards compared to Fernando Alonso's 21 lap fresher 9 lap old hard compound tyres. He just did a lap time but was 8 tenths quicker than that of Max Verstappen, and with 22 laps remaining he is catching. 8 seconds is the gap between Max and Verstappen. So yes, Fernando Alonso, a very, very great performance from him here today. Also from Lance Stroll as well. Credit to Lance Stroll where it's due. He currently finds himself in P8 and looking to chase down Gabriel Bortoleto to try and get maybe potentially a 5th and 6th for both them. As no, Verstappen does pit. They said they were going to monitor the situation, but Max Verstappen cannot utilise that clean air. He is on considerably old hard compound tyres, and well, pushing those hard compound tyres to over 50 laps would just be too much. You could see the amount of time he was losing to the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso, and well, Max, where is he going to come out? Is he going to come out ahead of Kimi Antonelli? And I think he isn't, as Antonelli with the slipstream there down the braking zone of turn 1. Is Antonelli with those more warmed up tyres, shall we say, but not fresher tyres, as Verstappen is on brand new tyres and Antonelli is on 27 lap olds. And well, yes, Verstappen holds him off. So we're going to see an aggressive Max Verstappen in the closing stages of this race, chasing down Liam Lawson and Lance Stroll. So how that's just flipped on its head as Yuki Tsunoda and Nico Hülkenberg are switching positions there down into turn 1. As Behrman says, guys, this car is broken. I've got no grip at all at the moment, as he has significant damage on the rear. Not entirely sure where he's received that from. There's a black and white flag for Esteban Ocon. Not entirely sure what that black and white flag was for Esteban Ocon, but he has been given a warning there as Lewis Hamilton sets the fastest first sector of the race down in 14th place on a brand new set of mediums. But all eyes are on the battle at the top between Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri on that fresh set of hards is closing down Charles Leclerc. He is reaching the blue flags of Yuki Tsunoda. And well, Yuki Tsunoda has just been overtaken by Nico Hülkenberg. He is being held up considerably behind the Red Bull of Yuki as he moves out of the way, Yuki, to the dismay of Charles Leclerc and to the relief of Oscar Piastri, as Oscar Piastri is now 6 tenths behind Charles Leclerc and well within the DRS zone of the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. He struggled all race to get past the Ferrari of Charles, but Charles is struggling now. He's got 9 lap older tyres as Lewis Hamilton gets past Ocon down into turn 1. This is a formality here, really. He's all under the rear wing of Charles Leclerc. We know the Ferrari has the pace in a straight line, but he has no assistance ahead of him. He has the DRS open. How hard is Charles able to defend here from Piastri? He's not going to let him by easily. Does Piastri go deep? But no, he's unable to hold him off. And at the first time of asking, Piastri dispatches Charles Leclerc, and it's all eyes ahead for Oscar Piastri. 9 seconds is the gap. 8.8 seconds is the gap to Lando Norris ahead with 20 laps remaining for the race win here today at Hungary. What has that done to the championship standings? Well, that has reduced that points advantage that Lando would gain over Piastri as it currently stands to 7 points down from 10. And well, that gap would be a 9-point difference between Piastri and Norris heading into the 3-week break. A fastest first sector there for Piastri, understandably, with the DRS and the slipstream of Charles Leclerc. But Charles Leclerc, unfortunately, not happy with the Ferrari mechanics. Charles did go defensive, but he had no answer to the superior grip that McLaren have at the moment, especially in Oscar Piastri's hands, with those fresher tyres, with that better downforce package than that of the Ferrari. And well, we are seeing now what we saw most of this weekend. The 2 McLarens at the front, the fastest cars here, as Hamilton dispatches another driver there in the closing stages of this race. 19 laps remaining in P12. On the medium compound tyre now. He will have his sights net set on Isaac Hadjar. Turn 1 incident involving Hülkenberg and Tsunoda has been noted. Not entirely sure what happened there, but of course Tsunoda played an influential role there in Piastri being able to close up the gap on Charles Leclerc in that middle sector, as he was less than fortuitous, shall we say, less than gracious in allowing Charles Leclerc through, and he let Piastri through in quick fashion. But a 19.5 last time around for Piastri compared to Lando Norris at this going rate. He will be catching Lando Norris with plenty of laps remaining. It is over a second at the moment advantage for Piastri per lap over Lando Norris, but Lando, of course, is catching lap traffic. How kindly will they be to him? And, of course, Piastri will have to get past them as well. This will be why the gap will be closing at this moment in time. We'll see how they fare, as it's the fastest middle sector for Piastri, with Lando getting caught up in some lap traffic there. That's 7 tenths, nearly 8 tenths advantage there in the middle sector alone for Piastri on Lando Norris. It's all swings and roundabouts, though, as Sainz is going to be one less car that Norris and Piastri have to deal with as he pits now for his second pit stop of this race. Not a very good race here today from the Williams team. Gasly moves himself up into P14. It is currently Norris 6.8 seconds ahead of Oscar Piastri, with Oscar Piastri on those much fresher tyres. You can see there, 15 laps fresher Oscar Piastri is. So often we have been here at the Hungarian Grand Prix where we have seen the lead driver stay on the one stop and try and extend and try and make track position work and get chased down by that two-stop car. This is what we want to see, though. Drivers at full tilt. Lando trying to navigate his way through traffic. He has done so. The next driver on his list for blue flags will be Lewis Hamilton, which is crazy to say. Yes, Lewis Hamilton will be the next driver to be lapped by Lando Norris, as he is down in P12 at the moment. But for Lando Norris, Hamilton is quicker at the moment and is trying to catch Isaac Hadjar, so he shouldn't have to worry so much at this moment in time. We'll keep an eye on Oscar Piastri and see how he fares with the lap traffic, and will they be kind to him. He will be catching Alex Albon in this last sector, which will not be ideal for any driver, let alone Oscar Piastri, as he makes his way through the last corner. There are blue flags now thrown for Alex Albon at this moment in time. Leclerc is ranting, understandably. Oh my goodness, I can't even read out Leclerc's rant to you guys. We've lost all competitiveness. You just have to listen to me. Would have found a different way of managing those issues. Blah, blah, blah. Lots of other words for Charles Leclerc, as Alex Albon does comfortably get out of the way for him. But Charles Leclerc is fuming, absolutely fuming on the radio. And, well, I'm not entirely sure whether it's because of an error that Ferrari have made by changing something on the grid, which Charles Leclerc has expressed his dismay at earlier on in the race. Maybe. But that gap to Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris is 5.9 seconds now. We do know that catching is one thing, overtaking is another. But what we do know in this modern era of F1 is that you need a tyre delta. You need a tyre advantage to be able to overtake here in these current regulations. And, well, that is most definitely what Oscar Piastri is going to have when he eventually catches Lando Norris, because he has 15-lap-old fresher tyres. This is what we need to see in F1, and this is what we are seeing here in the closing stages. 17 laps remaining. Lando Norris, 5.7 seconds to Oscar Piastri. Charles Leclerc ranting on the radio there. He is actually being chased down and closed down upon, Charles Leclerc, by George Russell. Oh, my goodness, what a poor end to the day this could be for Charles Leclerc. And you'd hate to be a Ferrari mechanic or a Ferrari engineer if Charles loses this podium today, as George Russell is 3.4 seconds behind Charles at the moment. We'll see what that lap time is, as Pierre Gasly is being lapped by Piastri now. He gets a cheeky little bit of DRS as he heads down into the braking zone of turn 1. George Russell's lap time last time around, and yes, he's lost another half a second, 6 tenths he's lost last time around. George Russell is catching Charles Leclerc at a rate of knots right now. Leclerc is not a happy bunny behind that wheel at the moment. And, well, George Russell with 16 laps remaining, and, well, he's got 3 lap fresher tyres than Charles Leclerc. Smells Ferrari blood. He is looking for another podium position here. Alonso finds himself back into P5. What a great P5 it will be for him. But Max Verstappen, can he maybe play a factor here? I'm not so sure. He's getting stuck behind Liam Lawson at the moment. Thankfully, Lance Stroll will be thanking Liam Lawson right now, as Lawson is looking to score more points here on a good run of form at the moment. As Norris has stated, if there is a safety car, we would take it for a hard tyre. You'd only lose out to Oscar. Soft is what Norris said. If there is a safety car, of course, you'd want the quickest rubber on your car that is possible. And we know, obviously, if a driver is on soft tyres compared to hard tyres, how that always fares, don't we? Going back to a few years ago, if you remember, in a very controversial race. But Norris leads 5.5 seconds to Oscar Piastri at the moment, as Piastri has now cleared all of that lap traffic. Normal service resumed for the McLaren drivers. Oscar Piastri is looking to close down that gap. He'll be able to maybe just catch a glint of his teammate there as he came round turn 1 and Norris made his way through turn 2. Hamilton, thankfully for Norris, is on the push as well and is lapping around the same pace as the McLaren on medium tyres. He's trying to catch Isaac Hadjar at the moment, who is in P11. But as we run through this grid, yes, it is Norris in P1 being chased down by Oscar Piastri. The 1-stop versus the 2-stop. Charles Leclerc struggling in that car. That gap is now 2 seconds to George Russell. He's losing almost a second per lap. It's 7 tenths previously, 8 tenths last lap, 9 tenths last lap around, and well, yes, that gap is now under 2 seconds to Charles Leclerc and George Russell, and you do think it's more of a matter of when, not if, for George to overtake Charles Leclerc, who led for most of this race. Fernando Alonso is in P5. A brilliant performance from him. He leads 4 seconds over Gabriel Bortoleto, the rookie, who is doing a tremendous job here again. Stake F1. What did you cook up back in Switzerland? Unbelievable from that team to completely turn around their fortunes from last season. Lance Stroll finds himself in P7 at the moment, with Liam Lawson in P8 being very closely followed by Max Verstappen. And Max Verstappen unable to overtake Liam Lawson at the moment, who is on 15 lap-old hards compared to Verstappen's 7 lap-old hards. Antonelli is in P10 in the points at the moment, but he is coming under it. He's being chased down by Isaac Hadjar. Hamilton similarly chasing down Hadjar at the moment. He keeps putting in personal best lap times. Ocon is in P13, Gasly is in 14th, Albon is in 15th, Hulkenberg is 16th, Sainz is 17th, Tsunoda is 18th, Colapinto is 19th, and there is an actual retirement there, which I completely missed there, with confirmed damage to the rear of the car, Ollie Behrman. So yes, our first retirement of the race, Ollie Behrman down in 20th. But an update last time around on the gap between Norris and Piastri with 14 laps remaining. It is Piastri, 4.6 seconds behind Norris. He gained a 7 tenths last time around on his teammate. Here we go, guys. Here we go. FIA Stewart, turn 1 incident involving Hulkenberg and Tsunoda is under investigation. That's a reconfirmation of earlier on, as that gap to George Russell is 1.4 seconds. We have drivers in the top 4 closing each other down here. This is going to be a very tense end to this race, of course. No more tense at the front, though, as Norris, 4.4 seconds is the gap. Piastri utilising that extra grip he has in those 15-lap fresher hard compound tyres, and 19.9 for Norris. That's the first time he's done a sub 120 here in this race, in a slight response to, of course, Oscar Piastri on the move. A 19.4 for Oscar Piastri. That's the second lap in a row he has done it. But of course, how long is he going to catch Norris in time? Will he have enough tyres remaining by the time he catches Lando Norris, who has been managing these tyres, of course, for a very long time? On the 1-stop, compared to Piastri on the more aggressive 2-stop, it is currently 25 points gained to Oscar Piastri's 18. The points difference will be 9 heading into the 3-week summer break, of course. That's not where Norris would like it to be. He was 8 points behind heading into Spa. It's currently sitting... It has been today at one point 22 points difference from Oscar Piastri to Lando Norris, when Norris found himself back in P5 and Piastri found himself in P2. But they currently, with a good strategy, Lando Norris has found himself in P1 at the moment, with Oscar Piastri unable to get past Charles Leclerc for the majority of the race, as Charles is now within has George Russell within his DRS. Charles, oh dear, this is prepare for the radio message, ladies and gentlemen, from Charles Leclerc. Once he gets overtaken by Russell, and I do say once because it does seem like it is a matter of time when George Russell overtakes Charles Leclerc. He has been gaining at a complete rate of knots. He has been more than 6 tenths quicker for the last 5, 6, 7 laps than Charles Leclerc, and well, that is more than the advantage that you need here at the Hungaroring to be able to overtake. He's all under the rear wing of Charles Leclerc at the moment. Charles may be getting a sneaky little toe from Alex Albon up ahead, which may hold off George for just a little bit longer, and I think that may be helping Charles Leclerc at this moment in time, as Albon lets them pass down into the braking zone of turn 1, as Hulkenberg is under attack from Carlos Sainz there down into turn 1 as well, with Albon not far up ahead. And I think Carlos Sainz with 10 lap fresher old mediums does get ahead of him. And yes, Charles Leclerc lives to see another day, just for one more lap, as maybe the slipstream there from Alex Albon assisted him by holding off George Russell. But maybe George, with that extra grip that he has, look at him all under the rear wing as they head through the kink of turn 4, might even go for a cheeky move somewhere in the middle sector. But yes, it is a matter of time with 12 laps remaining for George Russell to get past Charles Leclerc, and what a poor end to the race it will be for Charles. Or maybe he'll be able to put off some brilliant defensive moves on Russell. As we do know, Charles isn't going to let this go easy, that is for sure. He'd love to be on that podium step at bare minimum after a brilliant pole position yesterday. Leclerc actually needs to swing. He's got done so dirty. I'm not entirely sure, obviously, what the issue has been with Charles Leclerc. He has complained about an alteration to his car that should have been discussed with him before the race. And, well, no doubt it's probably a front wing change or something. There's very minimal things that you can change on an F1 car without breaking parc fermé regulations, without receiving a penalty. So, yes, maybe something there that he has progressively felt has worsened the car and affected his driving ability as the race has progressed. So yes, that is what has occurred there. As Alex Albon lets Carlos Sainz by. Carlos Sainz on a very different strategy to Alex Albon. The Williams, a poor weekend from them, 15th and 16th at the moment, and not looking like scoring points. As Hamilton has now found himself up behind Isaac Hadjar and within the DRS. Lando Norris not being affected by that dirty air just yet, as George Russell still not able to get past Leclerc down into turn 1 and 2 there. But we will see. We still maybe Leclerc getting just enough of a tow from Gasly up ahead. And, well, I guess, does he want to get past Gasly? Well, he'll have to, because Gasly has received blue flags. If he doesn't let him by within a certain amount of corners, he will receive a black and white flag, Pierre Gasly, and potential disqualification. So yes, he has to ensure that he lets Charles Leclerc through within a certain amount of time with those blue flags being waved, as he does right now as they make their way down the short straight into turn 12. So only one more car in front of Charles Leclerc for him to hang on to, with George Russell closing behind. And, well, that will be maybe it for Charles Leclerc in trying to hold off George Russell. There are 10 laps remaining. An update on the race up front. Lando Norris leads from Oscar Piastri by 2.8 seconds. A 20.1 last time around for Lando Norris compared to Piastri's 19.5. And, well, with 10 laps remaining, with Antonelli, Hadjar and Hamilton up ahead, will these lap cars play an influential role here? We've already seen Oscar Piastri take a nice benefit from a lap car earlier on in dispatching Charles Leclerc in quick fashion by Yuki Tsunoda holding him up in the midfield, and Lando Norris will be hoping, with Piastri catching him at a rate of knots, that he will be able to get past Lewis Hamilton, get past Hadjar and Antonelli in very, very quick fashion, and that they hold up Oscar Piastri. We will see, but I think we'd all love to see these drivers, both of these drivers, go wheel to wheel. We have seen them go wheel to wheel at the Red Bull Ring. We've seen it a couple of times. We've seen them collide already, more so from Lando Norris' side than Oscar Piastri. And, well, could we see it here today? Let's see. Oscar Piastri will be the aggressor, of course, but Oscar Piastri still will have a championship lead heading into, of course, the 3-week break. He'll be wanting to hold on to that championship lead as much as possible. So maybe he'll be aggressive, but not as aggressive as we normally see him. But 2.3 seconds is the gap now, a 20.1 compared to Piastri's 19.6. He is gaining half a second per lap as it currently stands, with Lando Norris now starting to get into the dirty air, no doubt, of Lewis Hamilton and Isaac Hadjar up ahead. And, well, that is going to be affecting him. Let's see, George Russell, is he going to be able to get past Charles Leclerc? He's closer than he has been for quite some time. He goes for the move. He's ahead of Charles in the braking zone of turn 1, but has he gone too deep? No, he hasn't. George Russell finally gets past Charles Leclerc, and, oh my goodness, Charles Leclerc's day has gone from bad to worse. He now finds himself in P4. George Russell's in P3, and that is not going to be a very, very happy Charles Leclerc or debrief room for Ferrari, with Lewis Hamilton down in 12th place and with Charles Leclerc now down 3 positions into turn 4. George Russell was complaining up until that moment of Charles Leclerc moving under braking. So he wasn't happy with Charles Leclerc's defensive moves before he overtook him there. But you can see no response, Charles Leclerc to George Russell. He's only got 3 lap fresher tyres, but he has made up some ground on the Ferrari driver. The Ferrari have lost all their pace in the second half of this race. And yes, that has been very, very poor from Ferrari and Charles Leclerc, which is a real shame. We'll get the debrief, of course, from them afterwards in the interviews, and it will be a Charles Leclerc that is not a happy bunny by any means, after being on a very big high yesterday. But at the front, we have 8 laps remaining. It's 1.7 seconds to Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Another half a second taken out of Piastri from Piastri on Lando Norris. He may have enough here to get past Lando, who is finding himself getting in the dirty air of Hamilton and Hadjar up ahead, and he's just not able to close them up sufficiently. He is quicker than them up ahead, but it is going to be affecting him, no doubt. And, well, could the blue flags here, could the dirty air could these blue flags and these lap cars be real influential into how this race ends? I hope that we see these drivers go wheel to wheel fairly. That's what we want. But George Russell and Charles Leclerc has been noted an incident into turn one, so no doubt that was the move actually. George Russell complaining about Charles Leclerc. He actually moved under braking Charles Leclerc, and they made a bit of contact, Charles, onto Russell. That is a very, very frustrated Charles Leclerc in that Ferrari cockpit as it currently stands. But that gap is 1.2 seconds, Piastri to Lando Norris. He's gained another 6 tenths on Norris right now, and there's no doubt that Norris on 33 old lap hard compound tyres is getting affected by the dirty air ahead. And of course, the degradation on these tyres compared to the 15-lap-old fresher tyres that Oscar Piastri has. He is nearly within the DRS at the moment, as Norris is on the radio saying the traffic is going to ruin my race, as he is not able to close up sufficiently to Lewis Hamilton at this moment in time. There is now noted causing a collision between Gasly and Carlos Sainz. As we're entering the closing last few laps of this race, we are starting to see drivers make some mistakes. It's a very long race here at the Hungaroring. 64th lap we are of 70. It is Oscar Piastri chasing down Lando Norris for the race win. He is on the one stop. Lando Norris, blue flag has finally been waved for Lewis Hamilton for Lando Norris, and we'll see. Lando would be loving to see the back of the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton and these three cars, as he has been affected by the dirty air quite somewhat, as we mentioned, on those 15-lap-old harder compound tyres compared to that of Oscar Piastri. And, well, he could be having the DRS as Hamilton gets through and just holds a position between him and Piastri for just a couple attempts there. As Piastri does get DRS on Lewis Hamilton, though, he will have double toe from Norris and Hamilton down into turn one, as Hamilton does let Piastri pass down into turn one. I think he does, or does he not? I think he does, but Piastri is now within the DRS of Norris, and he actually got double DRS there from Lewis Hamilton down into turn two, and he is well within the striking range of his teammate. Here we go. Lando Norris is now having to hold off Oscar Piastri. We do, of course, have Hadjar and Antonelli having a fight up ahead as well. How are they playing? We're on the 65th lap. We have 5 laps remaining after this. It is Norris from Oscar Piastri within the DRS, as Hulkenberg and Ocon have switched positions there. There are positions being changed further down the grid, but it's all eyes up front. Norris will be wanting to so desperately get past Isaac Hadjar as quick as possible. Piastri did just lose a bit of DRS there as they made their way through the middle sector. We know that catching is one thing, overtaking is another, and we know Norris is not going to let this go easy. How fair will they fight? We will see. It is all about whether or not Oscar Piastri heads into the summer break on 22 points, or whether he heads into the summer break 9 points ahead of Lando Norris. That is what they are fighting for at this moment in time. And of course, another race win. A race win that Lando felt like maybe he should have won last year, starting from pole position. But Oscar Piastri obviously headed down into turn one and won that race eventually. After the debacle there, as Isaac Hadjar moves out of the way pretty comfortably for both of the McLarens there, and doesn't get in the way of their battle for this race lead. I imagine Kimi Antonelli will do the same, as Hamilton now gets on the back of Isaac Hadjar, but that's not what we're really focused on, as it is all about Norris and Piastri. We are on the 66th lap of 70. Can Lando Norris hold off Oscar Piastri here? He is on a charge. He has closed down a 12-second gap over his teammates. He has had to get past Charles Leclerc, and he now has to get past his teammate. 6 tenths is the gap. Can he stay in the dirty air of that McLaren up ahead? We know that a tyre delta is required to overtake here, especially when you're in equal machinery. And well, he has that, Oscar Piastri, at the moment, as the gap comes down to under 6 tenths at this moment in time. He'll be getting a cheeky little toe from Antonelli ahead, Lando Norris, but it's not what he wants. He wants the clean air. He wants the grip from those tyres that are screaming at him right now. And he gets his answer as Kimi Antonelli moves out of the way, but Piastri is potentially within striking distance here, but he has a bit of a moment out of turn 13. You can see the interval time there went from 6 tenths to 8 tenths. It's now 9 tenths, and Oscar Piastri just spikes those temperatures in those rears just a little bit too much, and that can be the difference between an attempt down into turn one and no attempts at all. And that is what Oscar Piastri just found himself in there as he came past Antonelli out of turn 13. Lando Norris survives thus far for another lap. 4 laps remaining. Lap 67 out of 70. Let's see how they fare. Lando Norris making his way up into turn 4. We've already seen Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton tangle through turn 4, which is being investigated after the race ends. But it's all about really staying as close as possible through this middle sector. The papaya rules may be potentially in effect right now. We expected that this may be the case. I predicted this would happen at the start of the race. These two drivers on alternate strategies, as we have seen so often here at the Hungaria Ring. One on the 1 stop, one on the 2 stop. The aggressive. We have seen it so often between Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, and now we are seeing it here between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. They are comfortably leading the Constructors' Championship. They are comfortably going to extend their lead on the Constructors, and this is why they're allowed to fight on track. This is why they're allowed to utilise different strategies. And well, let's see if Oscar can stay close out of turn 13 here. He loses just a little bit more grip there, and it's important really that he stays within around the half a second mark, and he gets good exit out of turn 14. He's 7 tenths behind. Is it enough though to get past Lando Norris? Remember the racing rules. Is it going to be a late move for Oscar Piastri on the brakes down into turn 1? No. He has another attempt. There's 3 laps remaining here. Lap 68 of 70. DRS open for Piastri down into turn 2. Of course, there's still the bigger picture here for Oscar Piastri. While he wants to extend his championship lead, and it could be an all-defining moment here in this championship if he's able to get that additional 7 points on his teammate and go 22 points into the championship, into the summer break ahead of his teammate. He also does not want to throw it away, just like his teammate did back in Montreal in Canada, and lose a big old swing there. Pierre Gasly has been given a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision with Carlos Sainz. There are track limits violations left, right and centre at the moment as drivers are coming to the end of this race on tyres that have done considerable amount of laps here. 6 tenths is the gap as they head into turn 12. This is where Oscar Piastri, as we mentioned, he needs to utilise that extra grip that he has on those 15 lap pressure hards. Can he stay close within the exit of turn 13? He's a bit closer than he has been. It's all about the exit through turn 14. Does he have that front grip? He does. He's 6 tenths back. This is the closest he has been for quite some time. DRS open for Oscar Piastri. He's in the slipstream with Lando. No doubt Lando's going to be going defensive here. Does he go for a late move to try to catch his teammate off? Oh, he's all under his rear wing. Pressure on for Lando Norris. He's not making any mistakes at the moment. And Piastri just loses a bit of time on the exit through to turn 2. We are on this penultimate lap. There'll be one more opportunity for Oscar Piastri on Lando Norris. This race, you do suspect. He went for the move there. He wasn't close enough to get past Lando there. They're going to go, of course, single file as they head for the middle sector, as Oscar Piastri did go for the... Oh, he massively locked up into turn 1. Oscar Piastri did go for the move down into turn 1. He locked up big time and nearly took his teammate out, akin to what we saw at turn 5 in the Red Bull Ring not too long ago. But he's going to have one more opportunity. He did lose a bit of time down there, but it's all about turn 1 again. Can he stay within under 6 tenths? With under 5 tenths, you do suspect. That's the gap he needs to his teammate out of the last corner. One more opportunity. It's the penultimate lap. Norris first on the 1 stop. Piastri second on the 2 stop. The championship leaders. Charles Leclerc has been given a 5-second time penalty, which has made his day even worse, but it won't affect his final position. Here we go. One more run. He's not as close as he has been last time around. He has the DRS open. Is he going to go for one late lunge? Oscar Piastri down into turn 1. No. But is it all about turn 2? He's still got a DRS. Remember, double DRS here on the final lap. Is he going to maybe push Lando Norris out of position and poke a nose? He's all under his rear wing through turn 2. We have seen last lap overtakes here before, and Lando Norris now has held off Oscar Piastri in the danger zones. There are just 10 more corners remaining for Lando Norris to pull off what would be an unbelievable win here. An unsuspected win here at the Hungaria Ring. He found himself in P5 after the first corner, and well, he now finds himself in P1. Oscar Piastri only a few more corners. Remember, there are still some tricky corners to contend with here. Turn 11, the last couple of corners, turn 12, 13 and 14. Piastri is going to be all in his rearview mirrors and force his teammate, who has made so many mistakes in the past, to make another one now in an all-important moment. But Lando Norris has 2 more corners to contend with. The right long left-hander of turn 13. Oscar Piastri is all under his rear wing, but it looks like he's going to fall just a bit short with a very valiant effort. But Lando Norris comes around the last corner and wins the Hungarian Grand Prix by 0.6 of a second, 0.7 of a second from Oscar Piastri, with George Russell coming around the last couple of corners now in P3, and Charles Leclerc, a very, very poor performance from Charles Leclerc, who just fell off in that Ferrari in the last stint in P4. It is going to be a very, very heated debrief for the Ferrari team with Lewis Hamilton down in P12. But Charles Leclerc still yet to finish at the moment. That is how much he has lost time here. He has a 5-second time penalty. And, well, Fernando Alonso, with a few more, if Fernando Alonso could gain 2.3 seconds in the last couple of corners, he would actually finish ahead of Charles Leclerc, who has a 5-second time penalty. But guys, I just want to say a big, big thank you there for tuning in. Over 20,000 viewers here today for the Hungarian Grand Prix. If you have enjoyed this stream, we'll be back, of course, in 3 weeks' time for the Zandvoort, for the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. Hit that subscribe button. Let's get this stream to 54,000 subs. Go on, you can do it. Big, big thank you. But yes, that is the end of the Hungarian Grand Prix, as Max Verstappen is the last driver who is not to be lapped. He comes across in P9. Let's have a run through of your grid, and then let's have a look at the championship standings and what it looks like heading into the summer break. Lando Norris wins from Oscar Piastri in P1. Roles reversed this time around compared to last year. He did a different strategy. He did the one stop and he made it work and held off a quicker Oscar Piastri at the end there. Oscar Piastri in P2. George Russell in P3. Charles Leclerc absolutely fell off a cliff in the second half of that race in that Ferrari, and I think his mind also did as well, as he finishes in P4. Fernando Alonso finishes P5. Gabriel Bortoleto is P6. Lance Stroll finishes 7th. Liam Lawson, another last 3 or 4 races. That is the third race in 4 that he has scored points in P8. Max Verstappen in P9 behind the RB of Liam Lawson. Kimi Antonelli gains 5 positions and finishes P10. Isaac Hadjar finishes in 11th. Lewis Hamilton finishes where he started in P12. Hulkenberg finishes 13th. Sainz and Albon in 14th and 15th. Ocon is in 16th. Tsunoda, who started from the pit lane, in 17th. Colapinto in 18th. Gasly 19th, and Ollie Behrman was the only retirement from this race. So let's have a check, shall we, of the championship standings. And here we go. Here we go. So Oscar Piastri gains 18 points there to Lando Norris's 25. 284 to 275 points is the gap heading into the summer break here, with 10 race weekends remaining. We have 2 more sprint races included within those as well, so still plenty of points to play for. 9 points is the advantage that Piastri takes into this race weekend. 7 points gained this time around from Norris on Piastri. It was looking like he was going to extend his championship lead to 22 points at one point in this race, but how it flipped on its head. Max Verstappen gains 2 points and is in P3, but he's being quickly chased down by George Russell, who gained 15 points there by finishing on the podium in P4. 172 points to 187. Charles Leclerc is in 5th place. He's 151 points to George Russell's 172 in 4th. Lewis Hamilton gains no points there by finishing outside. He's on 109. Antonelli gains a solitary point to keep him in 7th. We have 4th place, the Aston Martin drivers. We have Alonso and Stroll still on the same amount of points, ladies and gentlemen. 11th and 12th for Stroll, 10 points there for Alonso. He's moved up 4 places and is now in P11 with Stroll in 12th. Hadjar moves down, Gasly moves down, Lawson moves down, even though he's scored 4 points. He's on equal points to Pierre Gasly at the moment, and 2 behind his teammate, Isaac Hadjar. Bortoleto moves up 2 places into P17 after gaining 8 points there. Unbelievable there from Gabriel Bortoleto. P6 from him. And, well, let's have a look, shall we? Let's run, shall we? Our poll. Driver of the day. Let's do driver of the day. But I really enjoyed that race. see, guys, that's why you should tune into this watch along and look at my predictions, because I predicted exactly what happened there. So, yes, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think we hit 21,000 viewers today, so that's absolutely tremendous. Driver of the day, should we do Norris? I think we should do Alonso. I think we should do Bortoleto, if I can spell Bortoleto correct. And I don't know who else we should put there, really. Is that it? Should we do Russell? We'll do Russell as well. Okay, we'll do. I've only got 4 options, so apologies. Lance Stroll, maybe. I feel like Lance Stroll lost the position, though, so I don't think I can give it to him, although it was a great performance from him. So, yes, there we go. Oh, God. Oh, my goodness. Woo. Wow. Wow. Ferrari thought they'd be the main character, but it wasn't very good from Ferrari, was it? Stroll was brilliant today. Stroll was brilliant. Lawson was brilliant. I feel like those drivers deserve the driver of the day, maybe. Because I didn't expect Russell to get a podium. So at the moment, it's Norris 52%, Alonso 18%, Bortoleto 14%, Russell 15%. I agree. I have to give it to Norris personally. I think who would be second for me? I think second would be who do we put there? Alonso, Bortoleto, Russell. I think it's a toss-up between Alonso and Bortoleto. I think Bortoleto probably, purely because he gained a position and he finished P6 in a stake. But Alonso did tremendously well and showed, I mean, just... I've said this before, ladies and gentlemen, is that I think if you had Alonso and Hamilton in those 2 McLarens, I think you'd have a championship battle between Lewis and Alonso, because I still think, even at their age, I think they're such confidence drivers that if they have a car underneath them that they're confident in, they will get results. And that's what we've seen from these here today. Well, from Alonso today, not Lewis Hamilton, of course. But yeah. Were undercuts more affected than expected today, or did track position prove more valuable in the end? It depended. I think track position. So if we have a look, I'm going to move this over. If we have a look at the guys who did 1-stops. So we can see here who did 1-stops, right? Norris gained 2 positions, won the race. Alonso stayed where he did and gained, just held track position. Bortoleto gained a position on track. So really, if you look at it, Alonso, Bortoleto, Stroll, Lawson all pretty much held position. They were never really under threat. Verstappen struggled on the 2-stop. Antonelli did a 1-stop and gained 5 places. Hadjar was at least fighting Antonelli. I mean, Hadjar didn't really have the pace here on the race pace overall. He got stuck behind Behrman, didn't he? Ocon gained a position. Gasly's like the only... Gasly... Yeah, I think the 1-stop was definitely the preferred choice today. Yeah, if you look at it, they definitely were the preferred choice, and they had yeah. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to make you guys bigger because let's move that. There we go. We can see you guys now, and then we can bring the championship standings over. So. There we go. Something like that. Oh my goodness. For 3 week summer break now. 3 week summer break. Maybe I should have put the shirt on today. See, it's not the shirt. See, guys, can I just say it's not the shirt? It's Ferrari. So, if you're wondering why Charles Leclerc is miffed, obviously the big issue is he's just finished 4th, right? But he was complaining in the race today that supposedly they had made a change to his car without his permission, and he had told them about this. He had told them, don't make changes to the car without discussing it with me. And they've made some change to the car, but they're allowed to under part firme conditions. So normally that's like a front wing change. Very, very minimal things, but can have a massive impact on how the car handles. Charles felt it as the car got lighter. So he didn't feel it when the car was heavy in the first half of the race, but as he got on the second set of hard compound tyres, he was just bleeding time. And the car was sliding, and he didn't feel comfortable in that car, and that's obviously what happens, and that's why he's so miffed. So, how incompetent can you be to change the settings where your driver practiced and qualified at? Ferrari have lost their minds. I know. I mean, look, maybe, I don't know. I'm only relaying, obviously, what he said. I don't know if that is the case. There's clearly, but he's the driver. He's the one in the cockpit who knows how that car is feeling. And, yeah, I mean, regardless, it's, if they whatever they've changed, it's wrong. If they've done it without his say-so, yeah. What a race before the break, though. Yeah, it was a brilliant race. I mean, look, we wanted to see the McLarens go for it. Wait until you see, guys. Oh, my goodness. I need to, I can't show you it, but I'll do... Do you remember turn 5? Do you remember when Oscar Piastri locked up and he nearly hit the rear of Lando Norris into the corner? Do you guys remember that? Where is that? There we go, webcam. I want to move this. I want to move myself bigger. There we go. If you remember that, he did exactly the same. He lunged from so far back and he locked up and he nearly hit Lando's rear wing. I think Mila does, yeah. Mila definitely does, yeah. So, oh my God, what a race! What a race! Thank you, Steve. Yeah, much appreciated. Yeah, guys, if you have enjoyed the stream, if you're new to the channel, if you've been watching this channel for a long time and you're still yet to hit that subscribe button, please do. We're trying to hit 55,000 subs at the moment. We'd love to hit 100k at the end of the year. It's a tall order. But, yeah, thank you as always. We hit, as I said, was that a PB? It was nearly a PB for me. 21,000 viewers. So absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant there. So, right. So, you guys voted Lando Norris driver of the day. I agree with that, to be honest. I think the fact that he found himself in 5th place and he made that one-stop work is tremendous. Nearly ended up poorly for him with the traffic. I think if he got caught behind the traffic maybe a little bit longer, I think he may have been overtaken by Piastri. I think Piastri would have got very close behind him out of that last sector. That's really truly where it matters, is when you get that dirty air, and as we mentioned, catching is one thing, overtaking is another, and you need that delta, you need that extra grip through the higher traction zones of turn 13 and the last corner, and he just didn't quite have enough of it. Right, what would you rate? What would you rate the race out of 10? Let me know, guys. Let me know. Where do I see the Red Bull car now? Oh my, mate, I'll tell you what. I'm looking at the overhead shot of... Oh, that's closer than Red Bull Ring. That's closer than the Red Bull Ring. I just saw that from an overhead shot, and Oscar Piastri's lock-up into... You nearly had the moment that everyone would have been talking about for the next 3 weeks. Myself included. Your whole YouTube feed would have been... Oh my God. That was so close. That was closer than Red Bull. He was, I say inches, I'm going to say millimeters away. I wonder what their reaction's going to be to it. Oscar's waiting in the cool-down room at the moment. So, but really, we said it, didn't we, at the start of the race? If you tuned into our preview, of course, if you tuned into my preview video before the race began, I said this race, I predicted that we would see a split in strategy from the McLarens, and I had a prediction that the driver behind would stay on the 1-stop and the driver ahead would be a 2-stop. Smug face right now. Smug face. Because I was bang on. I was bang on the money. And then we... hang on, just listen to them, see what they say. So yeah, those of you saying about my predictions, who was there earlier who said, "Oh, you need to use the 3-week break to improve your predictions"? Where are you now? Yeah, you're quiet now, aren't you? Don't worry, I've got many more wrong. But this is the beauty of the Hungaroring, though. So, too smart. Let me have my moment, Alan. Let me have my moment. Just watching. George Russell. George Russell, they just showed the lockup and they went, oh, and George went to Oscar, why didn't you T-bone him? That would have been great. Of course it would have been great for him because he would have won the race. Jarvis, thank you for the 10. You're an absolute legend, man. You always pop up at the end doing this. Thank you, man. How am I doing my fantasy league? I don't know. I know I have Norris. I haven't looked at it for a while. I know I have Norris as pole position as a double captain. So, thank you for the 10 gifted, by the way, Jarvis. Big W's in the chat for Jarvis. Let him. If you've received the gifted there from Jarvis, give him your love. Give him your love. So thank you. Cyber, I can't hear my baby because of the headphones. The background noise has been. Well, look, I always try and keep it down, but is what it is, mate. I'm in my circumstances here, and yeah. I feel bad for Lewis. What if he stayed at Mercedes? There's nothing to do with him at Mercedes. Don't worry. So, if he stayed at Mercedes, it'd still be in a terrible situation, I think. He maybe have some more podiums, but yeah, I still think he would have struggled because his mindset still would have been pretty poor. You know, he wasn't in a positive mindset at Mercedes. So, where do I see the Red Bull car now? Sorry, yeah, that was the question. Red Bull car. Well, this weekend it was clearly. I mean, wow. I mean, it was slower than the. Where was it this weekend? Norris P1. I mean, McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin, Stake F1. Sixth fastest. It was quicker than the RB car. It was quicker. But we saw that it can't. We saw that it just can't look after its tyres good enough. But that was this weekend. I'd say it's sixth fastest. That is, yeah. That's. Don't really know what else to say about that. But as we've seen before here at Hungaroring, is that tyre management is definitely a thing. That's why we go into the two-stopper. That's why they're forced into a two-stopper. Thank you for the subs, by the way, coming in. That's what that noise is for. That's what that alert is for. So yeah, it's it's a tough one for them. Max did say he goes, I don't expect to win a race for the rest of the season at all. And I mean, when you look at it, it's the pattern. I've been saying this for a while, but if you look at the races the Red Bull car has done well at, and the races Max has won this season, they're literally at tracks where we had no tyre deck. Suzuka, Saudi, I can't remember where else he did well at, but they're circuits where tyre management in relation to temperatures and degradation had just been non-existent, and that's where the Red Bull has done very well. And that's where their weakness is at the moment. And that's partly because obviously the car is unbalanced, especially through here where you've got some short corners, you've got some tight short corners, but a lot of them are quite long. Turn 1 is long, turn 2. Actually, is there really any short corners? There aren't really. They're all turn 12 is the shortest, tightest corner, but they're all very like long hairpins, and that's where obviously the Red Bull just has no balance and starts sliding, and then the car just gets worse, and then Max obviously gets more frustrated. And I mean, in times gone by, you would have seen Max do that one stop. You would have seen him take a hard compound tyre 50 laps, but he just couldn't do it. So Max is definitely going to change the car number after this season. Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised if Max ends up 5th or maybe even 6th at the end of the season. I mean, if you're looking at it now, I think George is going to catch him for sure. Charles, I mean, you always expect Ferrari to be strong at Monza, don't you? So I think they will. It'd be interesting to see actually how the McLarens do at Monza, because they've always run more wing than everyone else. So I don't know, unless they try and gain track position, but it'd be interesting to see how they perform with like literally no rear wing. I understand the split strategy spice up the fight, but don't you think that Oscar got screwed by strategy where he was kind of forced into a two-stop? He said himself, so screwed up or not, I mean, I need to hear the full transcript, but I guess I'm surprised he didn't I'm quite surprised that they focused more so on the race win than on the battle with Norris. I think that's where it was misplaced a bit today. So I think the one stop would have been there for Piastri. It all depends on the state of his tyres. I don't know the state of his tyres because he stayed obviously quite close to... Oh, he did drop back from Charles Leclerc. But was it because of poor management from Piastri, or was it because they decided to go for the race win more so than cover off Lando? I think it's more so the covering off of Lando that they didn't decide. I think when it came to their initial strategy decision, I think they decided to focus on Lando... Sorry, I think they decided to focus on securing the race win more so than focusing on the battle with Lando. And it was only in the second pit stop that they focused on the decision of Lando, because they asked him, do you want the undercut on Charles, or do you want the to try and obviously fight Lando? And he went, well, let's fight Lando. So I think they were too delayed in their decision making. I think they focused on Leclerc for the race win rather than covering off Lando. So doesn't it surprise me that Carlos is the last Ferrari race winner? It does surprise me, but then again, neither of the drivers have had... I had no expectation that Charles Leclerc was going to win this race today. I always knew that it would be longer for Norris and Piastri to get in the lead from Charles Leclerc, but I knew it was going to happen at some point because the Ferrari just doesn't have the advantage on tyres like the McLaren has. The McLarens can bide their time and pick Leclerc off when his tyres eventually fall off, and as soon as they've got clean air, we know that they're just going to step on it. And we saw obviously Leclerc struggle. If they didn't make that supposed change to the car that Leclerc is saying that they made, would the car have been more balanced and would he have been more difficult to overtake? Yes, but I still think he would have eventually succumbed to the McLarens. So Zandvoort was next, yes. Lawson on all the tyres holding off Verstappen was much more impressive than people seem to give him credit for. I am giving him fair credit. Actually, very, very fair credit, yeah. I think it's a combination of Lawson doing very well, and it's a combination of Max having a very poor car this weekend. But you can't... Look, Lawson finished... That's his third race in 4. Silverstone being the only race in the last 4 that he hasn't finished in the points. I think that's correct. Because he got taken out, didn't he, at Silverstone on the first lap, first couple of corners. So he's on a good run of form at the moment. He seems to have found his confidence. And you can see here, he's catching up to Hadjar. He's only 2 points behind Hadjar now. He scored no points in the first 2 races, of course, with being in Red Bull. So, yeah, he's catching up to his teammate and finding that confidence. He's going a bit under the radar in that sense. Do I think every team should just focus on 2026? I think that is the focus for the majority of teams now, yes. I think it's the focus a lot. I think if teams bring updates now, I think it's probably more so because they're testing elements maybe for 2026. Like they want to kind of data gather, real life data gather stuff from, because I imagine there is some stuff that is transferable from this current car, these sets of cars, to the cars for next year, and they'll probably want to test those out and stuff. So need a time machine, hate waiting. Yeah, FIA decision shouldn't affect much because Max had a huge gap on Kimi. Yeah. I mean, look, they're investigating it. So the investigation between Lewis and Max is because they went for the turn 4 kink over the hill. Basically, Verstappen poked his nose, but he only had his front wheels alongside the rear wheels of Lewis. Now, technically, that's not him having a sufficient portion of his car alongside him on the inside. You need to have, at the apex, your front wheels alongside or ahead of, or at least alongside the rear view mirrors of the outside car. So he didn't have that. Lewis was forced off the track because of the nature of the corner. And if Lewis didn't back out, Lewis would have collided wheels, and Lewis would have gone off into the barrier. And Max obviously gained that position, but they were fighting for 13th or 12th at the time. I didn't hear a radio message from Lewis. He obviously wasn't too fussed about it, and maybe they won't be too fussed about it afterwards because of where they've finished. So, but I guess according to the racing rules, Max is technically in the wrong. He's gained a position incorrectly as per the rules. Max, thank you for the $13.28, by the way. Much appreciated. $13.28. Honestly, Aston, this season has been weird. They were slow shitbox, now full fastest car. I think he's only going to be at this circuit. I mean, Zandvoort actually They may actually be a very quick car again, or similar position again come Zandvoort, unless teams bring updates, which I don't expect, because it's a similar circuit, tight, twisty, one kind of like viable overtaking opportunity, which is down the start finish straight. They brought a new front wing this weekend, so Aston Martin's issues poor performance this year is because they haven't developed. They're focusing all on 2026. They've brought a couple of updates, but not dramatic updates, and they've just like used this year as basically a throwaway year to focus on 2026 and focus time and resources there. And they brought an update here this weekend, and I think what it does, it showcases that if you get an update that does work, the gains can be very dramatic because of teams stop pausing their development for this season. So normally teams would always be developing, and those you'd need to really have a significant update to try and see some gains. But because, like we've seen with Stake F1, they brought quite a significant update a few races ago, which is why they're scoring points on the regular now. Aston Martin have brought one here because, like, Williams have paused their development for this year, Haas as well, Alpine, and then you've got like the Red Bull struggling and things. You're seeing much larger gains up and down the grid when an update is brought in and it does work, because no one else is moving forwards, you know. And Zandvoort I expect to be the same, because it's a similar type circuit, requires a similar setup configuration, and Aston Martin will probably be in a similar place. But then we head to Monza, completely different circuit, requires the lowest downforce package of the season. They will probably be quite poor. So, the car isn't going in the direction Lewis wants, and that shot Lewis quite visibly. Yeah, but I mean, as he keeps saying, he goes, "It's not my car, it's not my car," which is why he's focusing a lot. He keeps dropping that into interviews. It's not my car. He drops that into interviews, and then he says he's focusing on the development of 2026. So. The race was kind of boring, not going to lie, and then everyone was getting lapped by McLarens. I disagree. Look, you don't always need a ton of overtakes to make a race interesting. I wouldn't call it a 9 out of 10, to be honest with you. I'd probably call it an 8 out of 10. I'm going to end the poll. But I think you don't need a lot of overtakes for there to be... for it to be interesting. We need strategy. We need tyre offsets. I mean, we saw Lando at fifth place at one point because of the start of the race. He got overtaken by Alonso and Russell, and then he had to overtake both of those. And then he did the one stop, and then you have to chase it at the end. So I think, for me, that was an enjoyable race. I won't say it was... I mean, would I say it's a 9? I'd actually probably give it a 9, because... for what I consider to be an enjoyable race may be different to others, and that's absolutely fine. I can't tell you how to enjoy a race, but yeah, personally, I like that. The middle was a bit boring, yeah, but with races like this, you're always going to get that. You're always going to get that when you know that there's difference in strategies. You know that there's a bit of a lull in the race, and then you know you're going to have that convergence at the end. I wouldn't call it a 10 out of 10 because we didn't truly get will to will with Piastri and Norris, but we got that chase at the end. So, Gaston, thank you for the 10 as well. Much appreciated. I don't know if that even comes through. I think it comes through. Hang on. There you go. Thank you.
Appreciate your service.
Much appreciated. Compared to other races we had this season, this race was much more interesting, yeah. Hey, Andy, good to see you, mates. You're always lurking there, aren't you? You're always lurking while you're doing some super Formula practice. You can't tune into Hungary expecting crazy will-to-will. It's always been a strategy circuit. 100%. Yeah, 100%. But for me, I predicted it before the race that this would happen. I know I keep saying it. But we'd see... This is what we see so often at Hungary, and that's why it's a great circuit. But there is an opportunity still for will-to-will. It's just that, obviously, Piastri... fell a couple of laps short of that. Maybe if he responded a bit sooner, and because they extended him, didn't they? So I wonder if you look at the times. I mean, they extended Oscar to try and utilise the free air that they had between him and Gasly up ahead when Leclerc pitted, and they probably, in hindsight, it's a beautiful thing, of course. They probably should have pitted him a bit earlier once they saw that the gains to Lando weren't sufficient. Actually, the gap closed because Lando was on much fresher tyres. So he maybe, in hindsight, could have had a couple of extra laps to catch and to battle him, which could have been all important. But it's difficult to say at that moment in time. Rule number 1, no dive on the inside. Rule number 2, no moving under braking. Yeah, that's why Charles got a 5-second time penalty. One stopper won the race again, but it was exciting this time. Yeah, and we have seen plenty of times in the past where the one stopper here, so many times we've seen this scenario play out, and the one stopper actually ends up being coming off worse. They end up getting overtaken. So yeah. Can we move that in a bit? Yeah, we can. Oh. There we go. Move that here. The gap is down to 9 points. It's going to be interesting. Yes, it is. So we have 10 more races to say goodbye to the one Verstappen. Yeah, he won't be holding on to it any longer. You think because quali called a lot out, the typical grid positions were displaced. The starting grid was crazy, made the race exciting. I still think it would have been exciting. I still think we would have seen this scenario play out with Lando and Oscar anyway, if they were 1 and 2, because they would have been so far ahead. I think they would have been close as well together. I don't think either of that. We saw how close their performance was throughout the duration of this weekend, and I think they would have ended up doing an alternate strategy. One of them, it would have been a split strategy anyway, and we sort of would have seen this exact thing play out, I think, at the end. So, Kimi out of his slump finally, Dylan. I don't think he was ever in a slump, to be honest with you. I don't think he was ever in a slump. But yes, I mean, a good performance from him, scoring at points today. Yeah, he can take lots of positives from that. A good recovery. Sad that Leclerc now has less wins than Lando. Even Oscar has 8 wins. Ferrari wasting one of the best talents of this generation. Yeah, it's a damning stat, isn't it? It's a damning stat. I mean, he's got... I couldn't believe it when I found out how few race wins Charles has. Like, he hasn't even got double figures. That's crazy. So... Alpine are so far back in the standings. I feel so bad for Gasly. Hopefully he gets a decent car for 26. I agree, Ranveer. What is there to say about Alpine? There's not really anything to say about them, is there? They're just, yeah, not willing to spend money, I guess. So, he totally expected Lando to make an error, but he didn't. Yeah, and that's what Piastri was trying to force him to do, but he didn't. So, yeah, he technically has come out on top there. So I'm watching. Interesting. So, got to listen to this. They are analysing Anthony Davidson right now on Sky. They are analysing Lando Norris's start, and I want to see this from face on, because he had a good start. He actually had a slightly better start than his teammate. But yeah, as I said at the start, so he actually got a slightly better start than his teammate, but not enough to get alongside him. Oscar very quickly picks up the toe of Charles Leclerc. Charles moves straight over to the left-hand side. So Lando, in response to that, as the outside line is now covered, he moves over to the right-hand side, which is the inside. But then Charles swings back over to the inside, as does Oscar, as he's in the slipstream, and he runs out of racing room on the inside. Now, because of that, George Russell and Fernando Alonso, who are already on the outside, utilise the extra space there and swoop around his outside. So really, it's a bit of an unfortunate positioning there for Lando, because he was trying to position his car away from the leaders, but then they swung back over quite dramatically. Hindsight, you could say, if he knew they were going to do that, he'd hold the outside line. But ultimately, doesn't matter. He won the race, so... Thank you for the sub. To be fair, Lando did make an error. He just made it on lap 1. I don't even think it was that much of an error, to be fair. I just think it's just how this race start has gone. You want to see more Bottas action? Doesn't happen anymore. So I think Charles Leclerc has 7 wins, so he doesn't have a lot. Yeah, you have to give it. Look, whoever you're supporting, this is what we want to see, and this is what we've been devoid of for quite some time. In Max Verstappen's era, he was fighting unchallenged. The only battle he had, of course, was 2021 with Lewis. He had no fight in 22, other than the first couple of races with Charles. Then 23, dominant. 24, dominant at the start, but then, of course, ended up the car fell off, and he did very well, obviously, with the advantage he had at the start. Ended up holding on to it. And probably his best championship that last season. And then this year, and so really, we've been devoid of a championship battle for quite some time because Norris never put up a challenge last year. So for 3 years, we've been devoid of a challenge, especially when obviously Max was so dominant over his teammates. And then here, we've got what we wanted. Yes, McLaren are dominating, but at least they're being allowed to fight. And at least we have seen them a couple of times now go wheel to wheel and have these moments, which is what we want. So it's brilliant as a viewer, as a fan of the sport. I gained 1,000 subs again today. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely smashed it today. Thank you, guys. Thank you, mods, as always, for keeping the chat in check. As I said, I don't get too often to look through the chat while I'm doing my thing, commentating. So hopefully it was a nice, respectful place for you, and the mods did keep it that way. They're doing a great job. So yeah, obviously when we get obviously as high in viewer figures as we are, it's brilliant from my perspective. But I also still want to keep this a place. I still want to keep this a place where it's fair and respectful, a place where you guys can chat about the race and we can have a nice community feel still, even with the amount of viewers that we are achieving. So you was the only one here today, Taco. Oh my goodness, where are the others? I thought you said you weren't even here this weekend because you had a karting event. Thank you, man, I appreciate it. I started rewatching F1 in 2018 when McLarens were in the dumpster. Now I'm reaping the walls as their fan. Brilliant, Raven. You stuck for them. So now you're a true fan. You stuck with them in the low moments, and now you're here to enjoy the highs. People should watch the highlight to understand the race start. It's easy to assume Lando made a mistake if you don't see it for yourself. Yeah, I mean, at the start, I thought he'd made the mistake. But, yeah, it was a case of just unfortunate positioning from the drivers ahead of him rather than him. I think he did the right thing, really. In hindsight, yeah, if you could see the future and see where they were going to move, but he moved his car away from them to try and get that advantage of outbraking them into turn one, but then they just covered off and shut him off. So it's just the race was early enough before practice starts. Ah, brilliant, man. Appreciate you. He would have won if he was patient and didn't lock up. Who, Piastri? I don't think so. No. So Piastri, you could see, I think he just fell a few, as we've mentioned already, I think he fell a few laps too short. I think they left him out there a bit too long when Leclerc came into pit. And I think oh my God, they're looking at the onboard, the rearward shot of Piastri. It is so close. I so want another overhead shot. That's millimeters between Piastri on Norris there into the rear. That was closer than the Red Bull ring. But yeah, this was he was losing time in the last couple of corners. So turn 12, 13. So turn 12 and 13, you need the rear traction, you need the rear tyres, and then turn 14, you need more the fronts because it's a long right-hander. And then it becomes the fronts to then the rears on the complete exit of turn 14. So he was finding that as he got into the dirty air, even with the tyre advantage that he had, it wasn't sufficient enough for him to get in that half-second window. He really needed to be half a second behind Lando coming out the last corner, and he never was. He was coming into turn 12, but after those last three corners, he didn't have enough traction in those tyres and enough delta to stay with him and neutralise that dirty air, basically. So, yeah. If Piastri crashed into Norris and both of them get a DNF, Piastri still would have a 16-point lead. Well, exactly. Yes, that would have been a very controversial moment. Imagine Piastri crashed into the back of Norris, and unlike what happened in Canada, Piastri just damages his front wing, is able to finish the race because that was the second to last lap. And then Norris actually goes off into the barrier and DNFs. Imagine that. He gets a 25-point advantage over his teammate, and he's just arguably punted him out of the way. However, the stewards would have got involved, and they would have issued him a penalty. Now, what penalty that would have been, I don't know. Causing a collision. I mean, he still would have gained points. So management may have a talk with Oscar, team first. If they both wiped out, Alonso would have been on podium. True. Yeah, Alonso was doing very well. They already have the constructors in the bag up to the two drivers now. Yeah, I don't think the management's going to get involved anymore. We said this when we were talking about whether they would do a split strategy and that they wouldn't allow the team to do that. We've seen that since back before the Red Bull Ring where, I mean, if you look at the Constructors' title here, right, they've got more than double the amount of points of Ferrari. So 260, what's that, 520 points is double. They're on 559, so they're on more than double. They could not turn up for like the next 5 races and still end up ahead of Ferrari, and that's if Ferrari got maximum points and stuff, you know. So I think my maths is like correct there. So yeah, they're so far ahead. So that's why they're allowing them to fight, and that's why they're allowing each side of the garage to fight each other as well in relation to splitting strategy, which I think is brilliant, because if we didn't have that, we'd have more boring races, because they'd just be on the same strategy. We know that there needs to be a tyre delta. Strategy is an important element in F1 that wins and loses you races, as we saw today. So that makes it interesting for us. And it can make boring races, when we have the element of strategy, it can make what would be normally a boring race an interesting race. So I wonder if Charles can catch Max in the standings before the season end. I think he can. I think he genuinely can, especially if they're struggling at the moment. So here we go. Repeat of Charles Leclerc's radio. I can feel what we discussed before the race. We need to discuss those things before doing those. So clearly they've done something to Charles's car that they discussed before the race, which is clearly an alteration. He then follows it up with, we are going to lose this race with these things. We are losing so much time. Then he says again, this is so incredibly frustrating. We've lost all competitiveness. You just have to listen to me. I would have found a different way of managing those issues. Now it's just undrivable. Undrivable. It's a miracle if we finish on the podium, which unfortunately we now know he did not. So, back to listen to Charles's interview. Here we go. Oh. I wonder if so Charles will catch Max if Max's Red Bull does not improve between now and the end of the season. So even though Charles has a multi-year contract with Ferrari, he will still leave it. I mean, he will leave to where he thinks is the best. Any driver, I think, will leave to where they think is the best opportunity to win a championship. So hang on, here we go. What's he saying? He's now backtracking. Okay, so apparently, Charles went, I spoke too soon. I got out the car and I got some further details on the issue. He goes, there was an issue with the chassis, which we need to discuss after the race. So he was like, it needs to not happen, regardless of what the issue is. It needs to not happen again because the car was undrivable. So, interesting there. Very interesting. The race highlights have been posted, have they, Robert? Yeah, check them out, guys. Check them out. Check out the race highlights. You need to see it. Honestly, I thought it's ridiculous the way Charles say it's a miracle if they ended up on the podium, because for me, no way Russell could catch him, but I stand corrected. Yeah. I know it's not the strategist team, Liam. I think they made the right strategy call, because the Ferrari was never going to be as good on tyres as the McLaren anyway, so they need that additional pit stop. But he should have finished on the podium 100%, and they didn't. So it's clear fundamental issue there with the car. Apparently the chassis is what he's reporting, Charles, and that's why he's finished off the podium. But he looks absolutely devastated. So shame Lewis isn't experiencing the same with Ferrari. Yeah. It would be a ballsy move if McLaren just decided to wrap things up now and take the rest of the races off. Lando wouldn't want that, because he's 9 points behind in the championship. Why didn't Ferrari tell Charles there was an issue in the race? Well, this is it, isn't there, Ethan? This is it. Why have they not... Like, you can imagine, right, if that's Max Verstappen, even if he's effing and blinding on the radio and he's saying all these things, you can damn well bet that GP, his engineer, would come back at him and say, Max, it's not that, it's this. So it may be the case of it they didn't know there was a problem with the chassis during the race, which in fairness, they can't necessarily relay to him, but they could also relay to him and calm him down and say, Charles, it's not this. It's not this. There is something we're seeing in the data, but it's not what we discussed, as you're saying. Let's talk about it after the race. Come on, you can still get this home, man. Like where's that That's what I would do if I was my engineer. I'd try and calm him down, and I would try and diffuse the situation and just say, look, mate, you are still so good. You still got a large gap to Jules. You can do this, man. You can get this home in this podium. Like, try and G him up rather than say nothing. I don't know if I'm sure something was said back to him. I'm sure something was said back to him because we don't always get obviously the messages replayed, and I'm sure someone will post on the transcript on Twitter. I'll see if I can find it, but that's what I personally would be relaying back to him. It's like, yeah, I understand. There's clearly something shown in the data that something's not right, Charles. We have to see this home, but it's not what we're discussing. You're the man. You're still like you're the guy who got this car on pole position. Get it home. You can hold off, George. Do it, because he's going to drive worse. If we've all been there, whether if it's karting, whether if it's sim racing, if we're driving a car where we think the setup is terrible or there's something wrong with the car, you get in your own head and you start driving worse. Whereas if you can try and diffuse that and motivate him, he's going to drive better. So he's clearly driving even worse, and that gap to George is getting even closer more dramatically because he's in his head that this car is terrible. And you don't see that from you don't see that really from the Ferrari engineers, like that sort of coaching. If I'm Fred, I'm sacking lots of people. Well, that's the thing, they don't know, do they? Wouldn't it be great if McLaren uses their logo cars? Yeah. Aaron, yet people are wondering why Lewis Hamilton has been voicing procedural concerns with the team. Shambles at Communicate. 100%, yeah. Charles saying there is a problem with the car. The engineer says, yeah, it must be the problem with the car. It's not really the response you want, is it? It's like, yeah, tell me. Because then I'd be like, well, yeah, tell me. I've just said that. I've just said there's a problem with the car. Like, it's been great fun this season up till now. So thank you, Stuffeyy. See you again in a month. Signing off. Thank you, Rab. Yes, guys. And on that note, we've been live for a long time. Another long stream. Another brilliant race. And another brilliant watch along and stream. So big thank you, William. Thank you for the sub there. Thank you anyone else who has subbed in the last couple of hours or so. Absolutely tremendous. Yeah, great. 21,500 peak viewers we had, but the key thing for me is that the average viewership is always so high. So you guys are continuing to tune back into these as we've hit the halfway break. Channel is moving in the right direction. Over 53,500 subs right now. And yeah, I will do some sim racing live streams. I will do some F1 related live streams as well. I'm sure there's going to be, I'm sure it's not going to be quiet in the next 3 weeks. I'm sure there's going to be some announcements from teams and so forth, and plenty of topics of discussion. And you know me, I like interacting with you guys. I'll try and go live as much as I can to discuss those topics with you. And you can always watch them back, of course, on YouTube, which is the brilliant thing. So yes, thank you as always. Have a lovely rest of your Sunday, guys. It is currently Oscar Piastri 9 points lead now, heading into the summer break. We have 10 race weekends remaining, with 2 of those being sprint races. So still plenty of races to score points from. So I don't know how many subs I got this weekend, Talhart, but it's definitely over 1,000. We got over 1,000 subs this stream, which is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I am on course to double my, if we can keep that up per race weekend, I am on course to double my subscriber count from the start of the year, which is what I wanted to do. So I think that's 70,000 subscribers. So if we can continue that, that'd be amazing. So, or just under 70,000 subscribers, I think it was. But yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you as always, guys. Have a lovely rest of your weekend, lovely rest of your Sunday, and we will catch you. Remember, tune into the Missed Apex podcast, by the way. They will be streaming tonight. Obviously, you can listen on your podcasting platforms as well. Listen to the race review. And yeah, hang on. While I'm here, bear with me. Let me just double check and see if they haven't got it posted already. I can redirect you to them. Have they got it upcoming? They haven't got it upcoming. Oh my goodness, unbelievable. But yeah, anyway, head over to the Missed Apex podcast. They'll be live streaming tonight, and they will have on Spotify and so forth. So yeah, have a lovely rest of your weekend, guys, and we'll see you in the week. Bye.